Free agency has already been wild, and it hasn't even started yet. I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and a lot of dominoes have been falling this week, which could impact the Las Vegas Raiders. And coming up here on today's show, we're going to get into the latest around Aaron Rodgers. We're going to talk about Russell Wilson. There's some interesting reports around both of those players. We got some more updates of what it could potentially cost to go out and trade for DK Metcalf, and it's from multiple different sources out there. So I'm going to throw different trade ideas at you around Metcalf, kind of talk to you about how much it could cost for the Raiders to go out and get the Seahawks wide receiver. And since I did a show like this the other day, I'll be real, so much of it kind of changed. So we're going to do a similar, same, but different style of show where I'm going to be breaking down some of the low-tier, mid-tier, and high-tier wide receivers that I want the Raiders to potentially look at this offseason. And then, you know what? I feel like in the amount of trades that have happened this week, there have been so many trades, and there's just always rumors popping up one after another. I'm going to throw around some blockbuster trade ideas that are going to feature players on our Raiders team, and then also some players that we could potentially go out and look at. I also know that the Max Crosby contract details are available. I put them out on Instagram and on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. So if anybody has any questions about my thoughts regarding the Crosby contract, hit me up. Hashtag Raiders, or you can super chat, get those questions on the show. I do have a question, though, because this is going to be one of the big talking points on our first segment today. If you had to pick between Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, those are your only two options to pick from at the quarterback position. Who are you rolling with? Are you going to go with Rodgers type AR? If you're going to go with Russell Wilson type RW, I will give you my answer coming up here on today's show. I'm going to break it down a little bit more detail in that very first segment. But I see Russell Wilson from Jay Rader, Aaron Rodgers down there below from Edgar Gonzalez, Russell Wilson from JD France, Mr. Detroit City says Russ all day, Wilson from Yoda Jenkins, Aaron Rodgers from Marvin Lewis, Matthias Abner's going to go with Wilson. Dave said DC. I mean, I'll tell you this right now. I would take Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson both over Derek Carr. Scott Matt's going to go with Aaron Rodgers. Josh going to go with Aaron Rodgers. Who's ever cheaper? Which is probably the right answer, which in all honesty, I think it would actually end up being Aaron Rodgers. Vernon says Aiden. Aiden's not better than either of these guys. Misty's going to go with Russell Wilson. And since we are live today, I'm just going to be real. Usually when we go live on Thursdays, happy hour, we get a little bit wet and wild, we get a little bit crazy. To the 1,000 people that are tuned in right now to the show, I'm not going to be having any drinks today. All you're going to see me sipping on is I got some Panda Sups right here. Some super nootropics to kind of wake my ass up a little bit. But Chuggs and I are going to be live next week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and every single day next week, we're going to treat it like a game day. So we're going to keep it a little bit chill today on all the shenanigans and all the craziness. Next week, though, I'm telling you this right now, it's going to be one of the craziest weeks that we have ever done here on the Raiders Report. So if you got any free agency trade questions, any Raiders questions in general, you got to use hashtag Raiders like we just got from David Gonzalez. And then if you want to skip the line, you skips the line. Think of it like a Disney Fast Pass. If you just want to get your question on the show, I want to do my best here to answer as many questions as possible. Hashtag Raiders, that tells Chuggs to get them up on screen. Let's go to David Gonzalez. What up, man? Mitch, what is your take on quarterback Tyler Shuck if we miss out on a top quarterback in the draft? You know, it's funny. I've been talking about Shuck now for about a week and a half. One of our NFL draft guys here, his name's Jack Sperry. He's a really big fan of Shuck, and he actually has him ranked as his, number 3 quarterback overall, 6'5", kid from Louisville. I want to say he's like 26 years old, has played a lot of college football, had some injuries, but he is a great thrower of the football. He can spray it all around. Maybe not the best athlete out there. Like, he's not somebody that's going to be able to tuck it and run. I don't know if he's the best fit in a Chip Kelly offense overall, but in terms of a quarterback where their stock has risen, Tyler Shuck is a quarterback that maybe not a lot of people know about, but I think he gets drafted before a Dylan Gabriel. I think he gets drafted before a Quinn Ewers, gets drafted before a Kyle McCord. I believe that he is drafted probably at the latest round 4. I see him going in somewhere in round 3, but if you want somebody that can throw laser beams all around the field, and having an older quarterback doesn't scare you, Tyler Shuck is an interesting prospect, which I also said this. He's my number 7 quarterback for the NFL draft process for the Raiders. I do my rankings for the Raiders and for the Raiders only. So because I don't know how great of a fit he would be with Chip, because to me, one of the things that I love about the Chip Kelly offense, which honestly makes me pause a little bit on Rodgers, is I don't need a quarterback that can run. I need a quarterback that at least gives you the threat to run. Rodgers ain't running this year. Russell Wilson can still move it a little bit, but Will Howard at least gives you the threat to run. That's why he was able to, I thought, execute that offense a little bit at Ohio State. You don't need a Marcus Mariota style of running back for Chip Kelly's offense. I think as soon as you hear somebody say that, I would say that they haven't watched Chip Kelly's offense in a long time. But Tyler Shuck, I don't know if would be the best fit. We will talk about Aaron Rodgers. We will talk about Russell Wilson coming up here on today's show. Brian says, go target Joe Milton. I just don't think Joe Milton's ever going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, so therefore we need to find a starter. Is Joe better than Aiden O'Connell? I don't even think he is. I think Aiden's better than Joe Milton. Milton has more upside, but I think Aiden's a better quarterback than Joe Milton. Familia, what up, man? Mitch, what is your opinion on signing Joey Bosa? I don't really see why the Raiders would sign Bosa. Quite frankly, I don't think it's going to happen because if there's one player that I know doesn't really get along with Max Crosby, and it's been very vocal, Crosby called him a crybaby before. And, why am I going to spend? It's going to cost some money to bring in Joey Bosa. I would imagine Bosa probably just goes try to play with his brother over in San Francisco. If I'm going to spend the amount of money that it would require to go get Bosa, I'd almost rather you just go get Khalil Mack. You know what I'm saying? Go out and get a Malcolm Kuntz. Go out and get a Caleb Von Chasen. I'd rather look at somebody like Josh Sweat. Bosa's got a big name. He's also got a lot of injury history that comes along with him, and I don't really like Joey Bosa. He's probably one of my least favorite players in the NFL, and that's the Raider fan speaking out of me. But at the same time, there's so many other edges that I would rather the Raiders pursue. I'm not interested in Bosa. I'm going to be real, and I'm already seeing a lot of F Bosas down below. What about Hendon Hooker? You'd have to trade for Hendon Hooker. I don't know exactly what Detroit would be willing to give up, but if I was a Raiders fan, I would want to just look at guys that are already on the open market, which that's what the Raiders are going to do. I mean, one of the starting quarterbacks of the Raiders, it's either going to be Sam Darnold, which I would say he's the favorite, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, or you're looking at a Russell Wilson. To me, those are really your only 4 options right now. Now, yeah, you could trade up for Cam Ward in the NFL draft, but I'm talking starting quarterback of the Raiders. You got to pick between trading up to number 1 for Cam Ward, which I don't think the Raiders are going to do, or Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. But one of those quarterbacks that I just mentioned, when you listen to the latest reports, doesn't sound like he's coming to Las Vegas. What up, Kay? Flip AOC for Joe Milton. I don't know if it really moves the needle all that much for us. I could see the Patriots doing it because they got Josh McDaniels, and McDaniels was a part of our regime when they drafted Aiden out of Purdue in the 4th round. Hell, they traded up to go get him. I think Milton, if you brought in also a quarterback like a Justin Fields, Milton to me would be intriguing for a tush-push QB, and I've said that before. People hate when I say tush-push QB, but that's the role I would want for Milton. Milton's not good enough of a passer. He's got a powerful arm, don't get me wrong. But, if you want a project, I'd rather you just go take a project on a Justin Fields instead of a project like Joe Milton, because I just don't see it with Milton. I look at Joe Milton as a worse version of Anthony Richardson. Great athlete, not a good quarterback, though. What up, Nick Sanchez? You're next up here on the Raiders Report. Love the questions that we've been getting. Anyone who says Rodgers to QB does not know ball and hasn't watched football for the last 3 years, the dude is done. I don't know if he's done, right? And I think you got to look at the video that I put out yesterday where I talk about the New York Jets are a dumpster fire. I mean, it's a bad organization, and it doesn't surprise me that somebody went to that organization and ended up being bad. Before we just say no way, Jose, on Aaron Rodgers, I will admit, everybody said Tom Brady was washed. Everybody said Tom Brady was done. He goes down to Tampa Bay. He ends up winning the Super Bowl. I know that Rodgers and Brady are 2 totally different quarterbacks because Rodgers, I don't know how great of a leader he is. and Father Time's catching up to him. Tom Brady, Father Time caught up to him, but he was such a good leader, and he had it up here way more than what Rodgers ever did, which is why I still think Brady was able to get it done at a high level. But to say he's totally washed, I don't agree with that. And that's even coming from me. Do I think Rodgers is a top 20 quarterback in the NFL right now? No, I don't really think so. He hasn't won a playoff game since 2020, and there's a lot of people out there that are concerned about Sam Darnold not being able to win the big game, but then Aaron Rodgers hasn't won a playoff game since 2020. If it comes down to money for me with Rodgers, I could see the Raiders giving Rodgers a contract very similar to what Tom Brady ended up getting with the Buccaneers, where he's playing at a $20 to $25 million year, where it's like 1 year's guaranteed. If you go out there and get the job done, then you can see what happens in year two. But Rodgers, I don't think, is totally washed. I just don't think he's a top 20 quarterback anymore. What up, John Scheffler? Who's rocking with me today here on the Raiders Report? If you want to shout out on today's show, spam me down below. I want to see who's rocking. I see Jesse Long, Raiderville 1-3. What up, Alex L. Lowe? I see you down there below. Noah Suavemente. We got to hang out with Cass Joey yesterday. That was a lot of fun. Got to have some beers. I'll be curious to see if he's on today's show, though I actually think his flight is like right now. Yeah, that's true. He might be flying himself. We found out he's learning how to fly a plane, which that's probably one activity I'm never going to learn how to do. No chance, right? Like, that's like you training to be a professional bungee jumper or skydiver. That's just not on my bingo card. I see Sean, Marco, Steve-O, Miguel, Paul Wooden. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Raiders Report. Sheffy, if we're trying to build a winning culture and somebody that believes in that, is Rodgers really that? I like everybody's opinion. I know we got a lot of people in place in management, but Rodgers can be difficult. Rodgers is extremely difficult, and I don't use the word cancer lightly. I would say that Aaron Rodgers was a cancer in New York because he got all of his wishes, and it was a disaster in New York. I know that we want to build a winning culture. I do think that there deserves to be said that the guy that the Raiders just gave a massive amount of money, made him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL yesterday, Max Crosby. You know, the day before that, he flat out said, I would be interested in going out and getting Rodgers. The Raiders are also, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. This is a team that wants to bring in a veteran quarterback. And it's why I did a show a month ago saying the Raiders are going to sign or trade for a QB early in free agency. Like, we will know who the Raiders starting quarterback is by this time next week. Think about that. It's either going to be, Rodgers, Darnold, Justin Fields, or maybe it's Russell Wilson. But this Raiders regime is trying to win right away. And when you look at the way that they structured Max Crosby's deal, I'm even more confident now that this is a team that's looking at a 2-year window where if they're not winning by 2027, you could see them move on from some people. But I look at the Crosby contract as 2 years. They're going to try to do everything in their power to win with a veteran quarterback for the next 2 years, and then they're going to hand the keys to the car to somebody in 2027, and if they're not winning by that time, or if they don't feel like that they're confident to be able to win by 2027, the way Crosby's contract is structured, I could see them potentially moving on from Max if they're not winning or think that they can win by the year 2027. MDB, Super Dave, what's going on, my brother? Rather Ward or Darnold, but to be honest, whoever they get, I will trust Chip and Pete. I agree with you, dude. Like, I would rather you trade up for Cam Ward as well, but I 100% agree with if any quarterback the Raiders bring in, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold, Cam Ward, as long as it's a legit starting option, I am going to have confidence in this regime to be able to get the most out of that QB.
All right, wait, here we go. I believe in Chip Kelly.
I do. I believe in Chip Kelly. I really, really do. And I think when you
That's
look
for you,
at
Rebel. That's for you.
When you see his resume of what he's been able to get done with quarterbacks, when you look at Pete Carroll's, Tom Brady, when you look at John Spytek's resume, their resume screams we can make it work at the quarterback position, which is why I am confident in whatever quarterback the Raiders decide to bring in. It really just comes down to how much money are they paying them, and then what is the plan for that QB. because it's totally different. The plan for Justin Fields is different than the plan for Sam Darnold. It's different from Aaron Rodgers. It's different from Russell Wilson. It's different from trading up for Cam Ward. Whatever the plan is, I just want to see the Raiders execute it to a way that makes sense to me.
From Oregon to Philly to Ohio, I believe in Chip Kelly.
But at the same time, though, I need to see what the Raiders are doing because the Alex Kappa move makes me a little bit nervous. I get to the connections with John Spytek from 2018 to 2021, but I don't want to just sign guys just blindly off of, oh, we have a past relationship, and I don't want to throw out the name, McDaniels in that Patriots regime, but that's what that Alex Kappa move kind of felt like a little bit of, I get you have a good relationship, but he was horrific last season, and I can't believe that was the very first move that we made because you paid him borderline starter money. I am a little bit nervous to see. Wow, big-time trade. The Houston Texans are trading for Christian Kirk. It just happened. The Jags are trading Christian Kirk to the Houston Texans. The deal will be official on March 12th. So we were going to actually talk about Kirk today. He was going to be an option, and some of you are going, well, wait a minute. I thought the Jags cut Kirk. This is kind of what I was explaining the other day. If the Raiders announced that they are going to, well, not technically the Raiders, but there was a source that said that, hey, the Raiders are going to move on from Gardner Minshew. And the reason why the Raiders haven't put it out there yet is because it's not officially official. What teams like to try to do, like the Jags just did, is they'll say, hey, we're just getting rid of Christian Kirk. He's going to be on the open market. But they're still trying to trade him before the year becomes officially official. But I don't know what the compensation is going to be exactly. If you need the extra graphics, I have like what it would cost. I have all that stuff in Raiders, just so you know. But that's a big-time trade. The Texans just pulled off one. And I'll tell you what, this is why you sometimes make a deal. For Houston, it's going to cost them a 7th-round pick in 2026. 7th-round pick in 2026. They're going to take on about $15 million in year one for Kirk. I'll be curious to see, though, if they got to go out and give him a brand new contract because I would imagine doing this type of deal where he's only had 1 year left in Jacksonville. Also, this is how our shows are going to look next week. Our shows are going to be, we're going to be talking Raiders, talking free agency, but anytime a big thing happens around the NFL, and for those that don't know, the Jacksonville Jaguars just traded Christian Kirk to the Houston Texans for a 7th-round pick in 2026. We're going to break all those types of deals down. Wild, wild deal right there, though, man. Wild, wild trade right there. All right, little flapjack. Sign Daniel Jones, dumb. Jameis Winston, dumb. Drew Lock, dumb. Zach Wilson might actually happen to compete with Aiden O'Connell. And keep AOC. Start them randomly and hope it's random week of the year they pop off. Little flapjack, I've heard a lot of ideas, and I think that you're trolling me in this idea. But, there's that old expression, when you got 2 quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. This is the expression, I got 5 quarterbacks, and I got no quarterbacks. I actually would almost rather the Raiders draft Ashton Genty and then also sign like a running back and just say, F the quarterback position. We're just going to line up with 9 offensive linemen and just run the ball down your throat. I would rather that than signing this many quarterbacks here, man. Gilbert Moreno says, when is the March duck race starting? We will do the March Madness duck races, and they will officially get underway as soon as the actual March Madness gets underway. So if anybody wants to participate in our March Madness duck races, it's a $50 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365, and somebody's going to go home with $1,600. I will tell you this, spots are filling up fast. Over already half of the spots are filled, and you're only allowed 1 spot per person. Last year, David Zahn ended up getting the win, won $1,600. But he told me he's not going to do it this year. I've already paid for 1 spot for Tuna. If you're already in March Madness, like I said before, you can only get 1 spot. Let's go to Andrew Rivera. Also, because of the breaking news that just happened around the Houston Texans, my guy Jeremy Chuggs had to sub out. He's got to do his own thing here at Chat Sports 2. And my guy Smitty is here in the building. So everybody give a huge shout out to my man. What? Well, I didn't know what you were going to put because I saw Chuggs in the name tag. So I was like, all right, whatever he puts, that's what I'm going to go with. Shout out to Smitty for pulling up today, for helping us keep our live show going.
Honorary Raider. Let's get it going. Love to be here.
Honorary Raider. I kind of like it. Target Jaden Higgins in the second round. I don't know if the Raiders are going to target Higgins in the second round. I do know this is a player on their radar. They met with him at the NFL Combine. He was one of 4 receivers that they met with at the Combine. I would say he's probably more in that third round, pick 68, pick 73 range. I don't know if he's still going to be on the board there, but second at 37 is a little bit too rich for my blood, but I do know for a fact the Raiders like Jaden Higgins. Let's go to Jordan Lumpkin. You're next up here on the Raiders Report. And again, breaking news just happened in the NFL. The Houston Texans, they just traded for Christian Kirk. If you're still here with me, I don't think you will be when we're doing the one show about wide receiver targets. If you are, I have Christian Kirk in that, so just skip over him.
Okay.
So you'll kind of see.
Sounds good.
We don't have an offensive line for Rodgers. He can barely move, and he would be running for his life with our horrible O-line. Get Fields. No disrespect, though. Like, I actually think Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback behind a bad offensive line than Justin Fields. Like, I think Justin Fields needs a better offensive line than Aaron Rodgers does. So, like, I get that Rodgers doesn't move the way that Fields does, but Rodgers is way better of a passer than somebody like Fields, and if you're going to get Fields, you have to make sure that your offensive line is a top 5 unit. Like, to me, again, I don't mind the idea of the Raiders going out and getting Justin Fields. I think you can build probably the most complete overall roster because Fields is cheaper, going to be cheaper than what Rodgers would cost. But by going out and getting Fields, you better make sure that you got a legit running back, whether that is a Omari and Hampton, whether that is an Ashton Genty, whether that is a combination of a Trevion Henderson, Quinshon Junkins. Like, you got to make sure that you got a legit game, like a legit running game, but then you also got to make sure that your offensive line is spectacular. So, like, I actually disagree with your take here. No matter what, the Raiders got to upgrade their O-line, and it's going to be better than what it was last season. Dylan Parham's going to get better. JPJ is going to get better. Colt Miller's a dog. We'll see what happens with Andre James. DJ Glaze showed you could be better. But with $85 million in salary cap space, which is how much the Raiders have right now after the Max Crosby deal, you have 10 draft picks and $85 million to go out and upgrade the line. You got to find it better than Alex Kappa, but you have money to upgrade your line. What's up, Rich Wolf? Next up here on the show, Joey Bosa should be an Eagle. If you know, you know. Why should Joey Bosa be an Eagle?
I don't know.
I actually don't know why he should be.
I was a bit confused by the message. I'm not sure.
To me, I think Joey Bosa, the spot that makes the most sense for me is the Chargers. Or not the Chargers, the 49ers.
The 49ers? Yeah, go play with your brother a little bit. I mean, that seems like something he'd be comfortable with. They're very family-oriented, the Bosas, so I could definitely see him going to San Fran.
Interesting. So the trade that just went down.
Yeah.
7th round pick in 2026 for Christian Kirk. You're a Seahawks fan. What do you think DK Metcalf goes for? We've seen trades around wide receivers, and I think it's always teams want, like it's been reported that the Seahawks apparently want a first and a third. Yeah. That's not going to happen.
You never get what you tell the public that you want.
Right?
Like they're highballing right now. They're starting negotiations high. I think if they get a second-round pick, they'd be happy to get it and then get the deal done.
Okay. I got a lot of interesting DK Metcalf trades on this show.
Okay.
I'll be curious to see what you have to say about a few of them. Let's go to Carlo D. Fernandez. Did you see the Raiders news page that said we shouldn't have overpaid for Max Crosby? It's wild how some people think. Let's get the Mizzou offensive tackle at 6. You know what's funny? This is the second straight year where I took somebody late in a mock draft and I go, I know for a fact come draft day, people are going to freak out. Last offseason, I took Quinyon Mitchell in the 3rd round and I was like, he's never going to be here, but I'm telling you right now, this kid's legit. If you go back to my very first Raiders mock draft, you'll see the right tackle that I took out of Missouri, Membo. And he is a athletic specimen. There's some people that think that he's the best offensive tackle in this year's class coming from some of the notes that we've got from the Combine, but that's because Will Campbell's got T-Rex arms, and there's some scouts that think that he's just going to be playing left guard in the NFL in a year or two. However, though, I've seen people talk about the Max Crosby deal, and I would say the people that look at the Max Crosby deal and say what you're saying aren't looking at the big picture, where it's kind of like certain players just mean more to their city, mean more to their fan base than normal players out there, right? Like Max Crosby was the face of the franchise. If the Raiders would have not given Max that type of deal, Max would have asked to be traded and he would have been out the door. And then in your most important time of the year, why would any big name free agent want to sign with the Raiders if you just did the face of your franchise dirty? A player that does everything right. Now, Isaac Rochelle is not a guy that I'm very fond of, and I've heard he doesn't love me either. However, he put out a video on social media just outlining why a guy like Max Crosby deserves every single penny, and it's because he does everything on and off the field. And if you're trying to build a culture, which is obviously what the Raiders are doing, it's not just you're paying Max Crosby that money. You're putting a stamp of stability. You're putting a stamp of, this is the type of guy I want on my squad, and if you're not ready to match that type of mentality, then get the F out of here, and that's why that money is worth it. Where Max is out there doing his thing, I'll admit, I don't love the way that the contract is structured. It's interesting to me, like the way that the Raiders structured his contract, they front-loaded it, where a lot of times teams backload a contract. Like Max Crosby's salary cap went up this year. His salary cap went up next season as well. And then he's got no money guaranteed the final 3 years of his contract, which tells me that the Raiders are going to try to win in 2 years. And if they're not winning by 2027, they can move on from Max Crosby. But if they don't have a legit team by 2027, they'll move on from Max. Or Max will want to be out the door. It's the way that that contract is structured. But if Max Crosby and the Raiders are playing well come 2027 and he's making $28 million in 2027, 28, 29, we're going to look back at that deal very similar to the way I think people look at a Josh Allen deal, a Patrick Mahomes deal. And they're not the highest paid quarterbacks now, but there was a time where you had to spend a little bit of money, and maybe some people consider it an overpay. But if you think that you're going to give yourself a 2 to 3 window, and then Max Crosby's making $28 million 3 years from now, edge rushers as good as Max Crosby 3 years from now are going to be making in the 40s, mid-40s. And people are going to go, Max Crosby is a steal. Yeah. Really, it comes down to what the Raiders do. If the Raiders aren't good, doesn't make any sense what they did for Max. I'm hoping the Raiders are good, and I think everybody here is hoping the Raiders are good. Let's go to my man Scheffler. If you think that Aaron wants Devontae no matter what, you think Aaron wants Devontae? Oh, you think that Aaron wants Devontae? I don't really think that. I would say for the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career, he's going to have to do maybe what he doesn't want to do, right? Like the Aaron Rodgers name in previous years gave him the ability to call the shots.
Yep.
I also don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a shot caller where if there's one organization that might actually be able to sit Aaron Rodgers down at a table, look him dead in the eyes, that table looks a lot like Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, and Tom Brady. Yep. I think that's a table where Aaron Rodgers shuts the F up and goes, all right, I'm rocking with you.
Yeah, he's going to listen to those guys. And these are people in the football world that he's well-respected for a really long time, and that they've been in this game longer than he has. And it kind of could even give him a little bit of a slice of a humble pie a little bit.
That's what he needs.
The Raiders. Yeah.
And I think sometimes people need a little bit of a slice of humble pie. Like even Tom Brady has talked about it in the past where it was, this idea that he's done all these great things, and then you get to a certain age and everyone goes, oh, like you're not good anymore. And it motivated him. And I'll tell you what, man, if you find a motivated Rodgers and he can just go back to playing at a high level, even if Rodgers throws for 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, I mean, that's the best Raiders season by a quarterback since Derek Carr in 2016. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think that he brings Devontae because I think Rodgers, despite him being, Aaron Rodgers, he's not an idiot. Like, no way Devontae's coming back to the Raiders. And I think if he said, I want Devontae, then he's going to lose out on an opportunity, a team that I think would pay him the most money.
What is I haven't really heard you talk much about that. What's a deal that you think is comfortable for Rodgers from Vegas specifically?
I think the deal looks just like the way that the Tom Brady deal looked like with John Spytek in Tampa Bay, where it was along the lines of 2 years, $50 million. You're paying him about $25 million guaranteed in that first year. And then if he goes out there and he does his thing, well, then you're okay paying him that other $25 million. If he doesn't go out there and do his thing, well, then you could either look at the stronger draft class in 2026, or there's maybe another option that you could look to.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
We'll see what ends up happening around Rodgers, but Devontae ain't coming back. What's up, Mystic? Cena turns a heel.
Cena turns heel in 2025. This is right up my alley. This is a good time for me to step in the chair.
Other big WWE guy is right here in the office.
Yep.
I hope that the Raiders do win a Super Bowl, though Chuggs and we've been trying. I've been talking to some people out in Vegas. I'm not going to say it's a 0% chance. I'm going to say it's a 5% chance. Chuggs and I, April 18th, are at Allegiant Stadium in WrestleMania.
I can't even express how jealous I'd be of that. That's an unbelievable experience. And he's basically saying Cena turn heel in 2025, something we never thought that we would see. Him going to become a bad guy now. Raiders win the Super Bowl. Just kind of lines up together as two things that we haven't seen in a long, long time, or really ever in the history of the world. So maybe anything can happen.
I'll tell you this right now. I actually think it would be unhealthy if the Raiders won the Super Bowl. I don't know what would happen. I can't imagine the hangover I'd have the next day.
The next couple of days,
The next couple of days. Quite frankly, I think the movie Hangover 4 would just be the Raiders Report celebration after a Super Bowl. What's up, Eric Castro? You're next up here on the show. Once we get through all the Super Chats, I will get into the very first segment coming up here on today's program, which is going to be around Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and also just some more details around a potential DK Metcalf trade. We should focus on Cam Ward, Javon Holland, Byron Murphy, and Najee. Trade for DK, draft Shador in the O-line in the draft. We have the money. So you're saying, oh, okay, draft Shador. I thought focus on Ward was Cam Ward. I'm guessing you mean Travarius Ward, the cornerback. So Travarius Ward, let's say, is $12 million. Holland's $15. Byron Murphy is apparently going to be close to $20 million. Najee's going to be $10 million. And then you trade for DK. Let's say you give up your second-round pick. You pay him then $27 to $30 million. Draft Shador Sanders, and then you're also going to get some O-line in the draft. I like some of these players, offensive linemen. I do. The problem is, though, if you're not going to spend any of your free agency dollar bills on upgrading your offensive line and you're going to trust the draft, I ain't drafting Shador. I'm going to use pick 6 then, and I'm going to take Membao. I'm going to take a Will Campbell, and I'm going to build the trenches that way. Drafting Shador, I'll tell you this right now, I don't think Shador gets taken in the top 10 picks. And maybe it's a hot take. His stock is sliding, and I think people are just starting to realize he's a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if it's a QB that you should take in the top 10. Yeah. And I know Shador and Tom Brady are very, very close, no doubt about it. But when you look at what the Raiders have done over the past course of the week, maybe 2 weeks in some of the reports, I think it's less likely the Raiders draft a quarterback in round 1. I actually think it's less likely the Raiders even draft a quarterback on day 2. I think the Raiders draft a QB on day 3, which has totally changed my mindset from many months ago. I just think what they do. Liberty Oak Oasis, thank you so much for watching the show. And I basically got that tree on my leg tatted. Delroy Rodgers, what's going on? Uh-oh. Here's an interesting update. My understanding is the Giants are still evaluating the veteran quarterback market. Additionally, for those wondering, nothing is imminent with Aaron Rodgers and the Giants at this specific moment.
Okay.
That is from Josina Anderson. Delroy Rodgers, best quarterback Raiders ever drafted. Derek Carr. Get free agent Sam Darnold. The best quarterback the Raiders ever drafted?
Yeah, I mean, Carr is up there.
Carr's got to be up there, obviously, but at the same time, Carr never won anything.
I'm trying to think. I honestly don't even know who else.
I'm trying to. When was Ken Stabler drafted?
I think he was drafted by the Raiders.
Ken Stabler was drafted. So here's technically by the Spokane Shockers, but he was drafted by the Raiders in 1968. I mean, I'll tell you this right now. Ken Stabler won a Super Bowl. That reason to me alone, Ken Stabler's a better quarterback. I know Carr's got the numbers, but that's also totally different era of football. Defense is totally different. DC is a great quarterback when he was first drafted, and it is a shame that he ever got hurt. But you can't be considered the best quarterback when you've never won a playoff game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I could sit up here and go, Aaron Rodgers is a more talented quarterback than Tom Brady. I don't think many people would disagree with that statement. Patrick Mahomes is a more talented quarterback than Tom Brady, but nobody thinks that Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Tom Brady.
Yep.
And you can't say that he's the greatest ever drafted when he never won a playoff game. That's my take. Who's the greatest Raiders quarterback of all time that the Raiders drafted? Let me know down below. Let's go to Shipwreck Rick. Trade Jacoby Myers and a third for DK and sign Godwin. No, I don't want to do that at all. Like, I'm actually at a point where I don't know if it's going to cost you a second-round pick to go get DK Metcalf. Because the wide receiver market we've seen in the NFL, and Chuggs and I were talking about this the other day, where, we kind of saw a shift at the linebacker, running back market over the past few years, and I think the NFL is a copycat league. Think about how many deals at the wide receiver position recently have been shit deals because these guys, they get paid and then they slow down a little bit. I don't know if DK is going to do that. He doesn't really kind of give me that vibe, especially if he goes back with Pete Carroll. But the value for trading wide receivers and then paying him $30 million, it's the fact that you got to pay DK almost $30 million. You don't have to give up nearly what I think people are going to request. And then the other part about Jacoby Myers is Jacoby's one of those dudes, man, that is so underappreciated. It's not funny. There's not many receivers in today's day and age that, one, block without complaining. Two, can be that reliable. He's not a one, but he's a damn good number two. And he just does so much grunt work where you need some receivers that give you some grunt work in a Pete Carroll of offense. Like, you're going to block. And that's what Jacoby's going to be able to do. So I'll be real with you. I don't like this idea at all. I like Chris Godwin. He's a good receiver. He's a good possession receiver. You're going to hear me talk about him a little bit, but I'm not trading Jacoby Myers and a third for DK Metcalf. Let's go to Eric Herrera. What's up, brother? Let's trade our third-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. Imagine a defensive line with Crosby, Wilkins, and Hendrickson. I mean, if that's all it costs you to go out and get him, and for those that don't know, the Bengals are shopping Trey Hendrickson. This is an organization that they're trying to figure out how the hell are we going to pay Jamar Chase $40 million a year on top of how are we just going to be able to put all of these pieces together on a field. The Bengals are the cheapest team in the NFL, and it's not close. If it costs you, I got to look at the exact contract on Trey Hendrickson. I don't know from the jump, but this is a team right now, they're just trying to shed cap space. And if you're willing to take on majority of his contract, I'm trying to look it up right now. Unfortunately, I don't have any internet. So, but I know I'm trying to see it. All right, I think I got there now. All right, so for the Raiders, if they were to trade for Trey Hendrickson, it would cost them $15.8 million this season. But he doesn't have any other, money on his deal. So if you're the Raiders, you'd probably have to trade him and then give him a brand new contract at 31. I would say teams that are Super Bowl caliber teams right from the jump that know that they're in that window right now, that's a team that goes out and trades for Trey Hendrickson. For the Raiders, he's 31. I get the value in 1 year, but the Raiders are also planning for the next 2 to 3. So I don't think that he fits that, but I'll tell you this right now. Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Tyree Wilson, that's a hell of a front, man. What up, Muerte? Thank you so much, man, for sending in the good vibes. I appreciate it. Bo, you're next up here. The Alex Kapka signing, below average. Hearing these other teams make splash starts to get me nervous, get aggressive. So, again, we can't sign any, unrestricted free agents. Players that were released or announced that they were released, we could sign Tyler Lockett at this moment right now. We could do that because he's on waivers. He's available. But to me, Kappa, I don't love the player. I think the reason why the Raiders did it is because Kappa has ties to John Spytek. They're trying to build a culture. They're trying to show teams that we are trying to build a culture. I mean, look at what they did yesterday. You extend Max Crosby and you sign Alex Kappa. That is people that know the organization, people that know John Spytek. It just shows that these are the type of players that the Raiders are going to try to bring in. But I hear you. I mean, the Raiders will be aggressive. Next week's going to be insane, y'all. Let's go to Lamont757. Trust me, you don't want Darnold. Imagine Josh McDaniels as a quarterback. We don't have a great O-line like the Vikings, and we don't have JJ to throw to, so we will suck. I agree that Kevin O'Connell is a great playmaker, and I know Justin Jefferson is a great player as well, but let's not act like the Minnesota Vikings were a team that everybody expected to be good. I feel like if you would have asked everybody at the beginning of last season, when the season started, who's going to be the worst team in the NFC North, I bet you 8 out of 10 people would have said the Vikings. People would have said the Bears would have been better. People would have said the Lions would have been better. And people would have said the Packers would have been better. Like, I think what Sam Darnold did, throwing for 35 touchdowns, people just don't do that randomly. In fact, Sam Darnold's going to be the first player in NFL history to throw for 35 touchdowns, and his team doesn't bring him back the following season. Sam Darnold also, when you look at the NFL quarterbacks to throw for 35 touchdowns in a season, 65 QBs have done it. All but one will probably make the Hall of Fame. The guy that's not going to make the Hall of Fame is Blake Bortles. I get that you should be worried about Darnold. But what Chip Kelly was able to do with Will Howard and what John Spytek was able to do with Baker Mayfield and what Pete Carroll was able to do with Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, I'm going to roll the dice on Darnold as long as it's not a shit ton of money. If it's around the numbers that are being reported recently, 25 to 30 for the Raiders, that's the price for the Raiders. I'm on board with that. That I don't think is a bad deal. Ed Robbins, what's up, man? 49ers just cut defensive tackle Javon Hargrave. Could work next to Wilkins and Max. The Raiders will upgrade their defensive line, no doubt about it. But as much as Hargrave was somebody that I loved in Philadelphia, got paid, got fat, got lazy, went to San Francisco. If I'm going to bring back a defensive tackle that is up there in age a little bit, I want Adam Butler back. Adam Butler at about $3 to $4 million is just here's a basketball reference for you. You cover the Warriors. Yeah. He's Draymond Green on a defensive line. And like the good Draymond Green back in the day where Adam just does all of the dirty work. He might not fill up a box sheet or a box stat score or whatever the hell word I'm looking for, but he just creates so much around him, and he just makes everybody else around him a lot better. And when you pay Max Crosby what you paid him, when you're paying Christian Wilkins what you're paying him, when you draft somebody at number 7 overall, Tyree Wilson, you need that defensive tackle that you bring in to make all of those other guys better. And that's exactly what Adam Butler does. Lil Flapjack, did you see the recent AOC interview? Did I see the interview itself? No, but Mike and I, that's one of my dudes. And you want to talk about identical twins, Mike and his twin, it's actually hard for me at times. Like if they were standing in front of me, both of them together, I don't know if I'd be able to tell them apart. Now, I've hung out with both of them, some of the nicest dudes. That is a great, great family as well. But basically what people who haven't seen the interview should take away from it is Aidan O'Connell has been working this offseason with Tom Brady. And they've been working a lot together to just kind of understand what the Raiders could potentially look like, what the offense could be looking like. And I've said this before. Aidan O'Connell's value has never been higher. And if I am the Raiders, I am trying to leak out as much information as possible that all Aidan O'Connell has done this entire offseason is worked with Tom Brady. Because there's a certain guy in New England. I'm telling you right now, I'm not saying the trade's going to happen, but Josh McDaniels is 1,000,000% in looking at Aidan O'Connell. They need a backup quarterback. Joe Milton don't fit that offense. Aidan O'Connell does. If I was the Raiders, I would leak out as much info that I can of Aidan's in the best shape of his life. He's working with Tom Brady because even though I respect AOC and he's going to be a backup quarterback for a long, long time in this league like a Brian Hoyer, he's also not the future of this team, and this organization knows that, and his value is probably the highest it's ever going to be. 20 games, 17 starts in his first 2 years. But Mike's my guy, so I will check out that interview, no doubt about it. What up, John Rodriguez? F. Rodgers, F. Wilson, Rodgers or Wilson, not worth $25 million. Go get Justin Fields. If I had to pick between Fields, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers, I agree with you. I'd also go Justin Fields. Let's go to my man, God Family and Raiders. Appreciate you tuning in. We've been answering super chats and questions over the past 45 minutes.
It's been flying.
And I'm going to keep on going through some of these questions. We're going to take our time. It's free agency next week. And this is going to be the style of show that we do next week as well. So be on the lookout for that. As soon as we get through all the supers, I will get into the very first segment on today's show, which is going to be around Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and we're going to talk a little bit about DK Metcalf here. Also, I got to mention this. There should be either a photo or a weigh-in about March Madness.
Okay.
So the photo is the $50 Venmo photo. I don't know if Chuggs moved it over, or you could just put the lower third, Venmo Mitchell at Mitchell Renz 365, and the weigh-in, you could control F64.
Okay.
So I just saw a few people want to get in for our March Madness duck race, and the first one that I see here is Rebel Montana. Yep, that's the right one. Rebel, I got you, my man. And then Anthony Green, I got you. So again, we are going to do a March Madness style duck race. This is going to be in a few, probably, when does March Madness start? The 16th?
About the 16th is Selection Sunday.
16th is Selection Sunday.
Yeah.
So as soon as the games tip off is when we will start our March Madness bracket. But I'm telling you right now, the spots are going to fill up, and they're going to fill up really quickly. The first 64 people to Venmo me $50, you're in a bracket. It's 1v1. You essentially got to win 7 duck races, and if you do, you will go home with $1,600. We'll also go back to that super in a second. I saw 2 people get in, Anthony Green and Rebel. I also want to give people that watch the show on a Thursday the opportunity first, right? The people that watch Tuesday, Thursday, Raiders Report, I call them my real ones. And those are people that rock with me. Next week, we're going to get so many more eyeballs because of free agency, and I want people that watch the show religiously to get that opportunity first, because I promise you this, there will not be any spots come end of day Monday. That I can guarantee flipping to you. So if you want in, $50 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. We already have 36 spots filled. So you can do the math on how many are left.
Did you do 64?
64 is what we need.
Yep, so 28 spots left.
28 spots left. If you want in, get in. I promise you this, for anybody that did it last year and to the people that remember it from last year, you're going to regret not doing it. It's a lot of fun. Watching your duck race somebody else's for a chance to win $1,600, I mean, it's
What's so funny to me is like somebody loses 0 times. Like that is the funniest part about me is like you're 50-50 against somebody. What is it? 6 times, and you go 6-0. Like that's legitimately impressive.
I mean, so last year when we did it, David Zahn was the #1 overall seed, and we gave him the #1 seed because he's Mount Raider more, and that's kind of honestly like how we give out the seeds. So your seed is based on what Chuggs and I, off the top of our head, like 93 Nabman would be a #2 seed. Somebody who's like first time watching the show, you're probably going to be a 15 seed.
Yep.
But that has your odds at winning are the exact same.
Yeah, there's the seeds really don't matter. It's just about organizing and all.
But Zahn has never won a duck race in the history that we've done them, and he's entered over 40 of them. And he won March Madness last year.
Oh, that's electric.
And he won 6 or 7 in a row. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I think you guys would enjoy it. Let's go back to that super that we had before from God Family and Raiders. Also God Family and Raiders. The hat you sent me, that was the Brandon Jasper hat, dude. It's one of the coolest things that I've gotten in a while. I've thought about auctioning it off, and I will probably put it up for auction in May, June, or July. I'm still talking to 93 Nabman about a few different things, but what that gift, dude, that's freaking awesome. That was freaking awesome. Hendrickson totaled 83 pressures and 18 sacks in 2024, 2025 second, and a 2026 third-round pick since Bengals granted them permission to seek trade today. Thoughts? I'm not giving up a second and a third for a player that's 31.
And 1 year left in the deal. You got to pay him.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't even think it would cost you. If you're the Bengals, you're trying to dump money right now. You're trying to free up salary cap space because they're trying to pay Jamar Chase. I actually don't even think it would cost you a third.
I was going to say 4th round pick. 4th round pick gets it done.
I think 4th round pick, Trey Hendrickson at 31 years old, that's probably what it would end up costing. And way too often people just overvalue players, and I get it. I would be shocked, I'm not going to lie, if the Raiders made the deal. A team that knows that they're in win-now mode will make this deal. I don't know who it's going to be. If it's the Raiders, though, yeah, Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby is a dynamic duo. But I do find it hard to believe that they just paid Max Crosby all that money, and then you go out and trade for a 31-year-old that you're also going to have to pay $20+ million a year for. Like, I just don't see it happening. Let's go to Kodiak Sawyer. Is Gabriel just being slept on because of his height? Most starts ever, second in QBR, 73% completion percentage, led the #1 team, and we can get him in the third. Sign me up. Problem is, I wouldn't want him in the third. And the size is a concern, no doubt about it. it's also he's just not that good of a quarterback. Where I think Dylan Gabriel is one of these perfect examples of some guys are just really good at being able to go out, execute a system, and when you got a bunch of really talented players around you and you can execute a system, it makes you look a lot better. But when you turn on the tape and you watch Dylan Gabriel, I don't actually think that you think that that's what an NFL quarterback looks like. No. Gabriel will get an opportunity in the league, and he might be a QB2, a QB3 on a roster, but there's nothing that he really does that I would say is above average in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And because he's small, he's not going to get many opportunities. Now, if you put him on a team like the 49ers a few years ago, like that team Brock Purdy had, he could probably go out there and execute that offense. If you put him on a team where he's expected to carry the load, disaster. Yeah. Let's go to John Alcala. I think if the Raiders draft Sanders, it's a Brady call. I think if the Raiders draft Shedeur Sanders, it is a Tom Brady call. And I'll be real, I really don't think it's going to happen anymore. If it does, it does. But I don't think the Raiders are drafting a quarterback in round one. I really don't. Let's go to Christopher. Baker had Godwin and Evans. Darnold had Jefferson plus everything else he had. Sure. But, I mean, let's not act like the Raiders are a horrible, horrible destination. Like, right now when you look at the Raiders, yeah, you got Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. There's not a lot to be desired there. But you're also at pick 6. Like, if I told you right now the Raiders could add T-Mac from Arizona, you could also sign a Chris Godwin in that. Like, you have the third most money in salary cap space right now. You can upgrade. And the Raiders are going to upgrade. Like, I mean, if it's Brock Bowers, Chris Godwin, and Jacoby Myers, dude, like, that's a great three-headed monster that any quarterback would love to be able to throw to.
That's enough.
If it's DK Metcalf, Brock Bowers, and Jacoby Myers, dude, that's a studly three-headed monster where we got to stop acting like whatever quarterback the Raiders bring in is only going to play with the team that we have right now here on March 6th.
Yeah.
Because the team that the Raiders have right now on March 6th compared to the team that we're going to have start at week 1, it's going to be so different. Like, it's going to be a brand new facelift. Buy in now. Buy in now. Lamont, what's going on, my man? Appreciate you. Look up Darnold's last 6 seasons and ask yourself, if Darnold was so good, Vikings would have kept him, but they're going with an unknown quarterback with injuries. Shake my head. And they drafted him at 6, though.
And are they getting rid of Darnold? I'm pretty sure they're trying to work a new deal back that works out for them.
I think what they're trying to do is boost his personal stock. I think they're trying to do right by him.
Okay.
And that's my guess, right? Now, I've talked to Seeps. I talked to a guy who covers the Vikings very closely as well, and they believe that they're trying to do right by him to boost his value.
Get him
where
paid elsewhere.
If they say that he's just going to hit the market, then
his price already drops like that. It's like driving a car off the lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I get what you're saying the last 6 seasons. I hear you loud and clear. How about this? Look at the start of Baker Mayfield's career. Baker Mayfield was playing scout team quarterback for the Carolina Panthers 2 years ago, goes down in the right situation for him with John Spytek, and now he's a quarterback that's going out there and he's doing his thing. We can't just always look at what this guy has been, because a lot of times it's based on fit. Like, fit is a huge, huge part of the equation, where Sam Darnold was a great fit with Kevin O'Connell. I also think because Chip Kelly is Chip Kelly, Sam Darnold's going to come over here. He might not throw for 35 touchdowns again, but if I told you Sam Darnold, 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, that's the best Raiders quarterback we've had since Carr in 2016, and that's kind of what I think we would get with Chip Kelly with Sam Darnold. I don't love Sam Darnold. I love Chip Kelly. Darnold's okay. Put them together, and I'm okay with it. Jersey boy, what's going on, my man? Trade Mayer a 4th and a 7th to Seattle for DK and Charbonnet. I hate to break it to you. That's not even close.
It's not going to happen.
I would say Michael Mayer in that situation, I don't even know if Seattle needs a tight end.
He's a throw-in more like
actual Mayer's not
value in the trade.
Yeah, no, Mayer's not worth a 4th-round pick, I think, to a lot of other NFL teams out there. So essentially you're saying a 4th, a 5th, a 7th to Seattle for DK and a running back. Not going to happen.
No.
Sorry. I like the creativity. I like when people throw different trades at me. I throw a lot of different trades at you guys all the time, but that's not the value that you would get. Reminder, we got almost 1,500 people here in the building. You're watching our live Raiders Report show. If you're kind of like what we're doing today, we're going to be doing this every single day next week. I will be live every day, Monday through Friday. Probably close to 30 hours in total of live content is going to be coming out from the Raiders Report channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure your notifications are turned on. It's going to be a hell of a time next week. Let's go to my man, Michael Smoot. Smoot, there it is. We got Mitch, very disappointed in wasting money on Kappa. Any updates on Christian Wilkins' rehab progress? I don't have any update on Wilkins. I will have an opportunity to talk to some people in a few weeks from now, which I'm really excited to be able to do. But also the Kappa money, don't look at it as 2 years, 11.2. You got to look at the Kappa deal as one year for 5.5. Because it's $5.5 million guaranteed. If Kappa's good, they'll just keep him again at $5.5 million. If he's not good, they're going to move on from him. I would view it as like an Cody Whitehair signing, which, believe me when I tell you this, I don't love. I'm hoping, though, that Kappa proves that he's healthy, proves that he just needed the right regime. It was a bad regime, let's say, in Cincinnati for the offensive line, but I hear you. I didn't love the move either. Let's go to Michael Hyde. What's up, dude? DK is going to the team with the best offer, and a report the Packers offered a high pick, a first or second round, and a wide receiver of Seattle's choice. What would a Raiders trade look like if they offered more? They wouldn't offer more. Like, if that's what the Packers are offering, then he's going to go. If you guys want a shout out here on the show, spam me down below. That way I know that we're back. And we are better than ever, man. I'll tell you this. Somebody said, I think one of those construction guys is a Chiefs fan. Might actually be a Chiefs fan, though I don't know. Are we back? I think we're finally back.
I think we're back.
What the heck, man?
Unbelievable.
What the heck happened right there? Sorry, one of the construction guys. So I think you guys have already known. We've been doing a lot of construction work here at Chat Sports, and one of the cords just got cut. So, we're back.
We're back. All the way back.
We're back and better than ever. Sorry, it sucks that happened. You know, we just went from 1,500 people watching. Now we're down to 400 and something. So you know what? Let's get back up here and going. I think I answered this question. Yep. Maybe Cass Joey was like, bro, I didn't like the way you answered it. I'm cutting the cord. I'm cutting the cord. Yoda Jenkins, I see you. Jay Miller. Ruiz said I never left. Appreciate you, man. Joshua Garcia, Nick McBride, Giuseppe. Real talk. Appreciate all of y'all still rocking with us here. We're going to keep moving on today's show. We got a lot of questions that we got to get through. A lot of segments to be able to get through as well. Gavin, Mitch, I think the scariest thing for me is that the Vikings are getting rid of him with a career year. They clearly don't believe in him to win. See, I don't really look at it like that. I look at it as that is an organization that probably just is confident in themselves. They drafted a quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, who I think that they planned on starting from the get-go. If McCarthy would have been healthy, I wonder if he would have started over Sam Darnold. So for Minnesota, they probably look at their situation and they go, well, we got Kevin O'Connell, we got a great offense right now, and we just made Sam Darnold look like a 35 touchdown. This quarterback is incredible. Imagine what we could do with J.J. McCarthy. I don't think it's as much they don't believe in Sam Darnold. I think it's they just believe in themselves and J.J. McCarthy a lot more, a young quarterback at age 22. So I hear what people have been saying. I just don't agree with it all the time. Jeremiah, what's going on, dude? Lincoln Kennedy wants us to sign
Will Fries?
Oh, Lincoln Kennedy wants us to sign Will Fries. I'll say this. I think Will Fries is one of those intriguing people where there's not a lot of, tape on him. And I think that actually his value is a little bit overblown on PFF, on Spotrac. If there's an offensive lineman that the Raiders should go out and that they should pursue, it's Mekhi Becton. And I'm not really going to change my opinion on that one. And I just think that when you look at what the Raiders need right now, okay, because Alex Kappa, he played, I get it, most of his snaps at right guard, and he probably is a right guard, but at the exact same time, Mekhi Becton to me would be a better overall fit, and he's a legit starter. If the Raiders' plan is to put Kappa at right guard, it scares the absolute bejesus out of me. But I also think that Will Fries is a little bit of an unknown commodity, and for what people think that he's going to get, I would rather you just invest the money and be able to go out and get Will Fries. Let's go to Christopher. Appreciate you, dude, for supporting the show. Much love to you, man. Let's go to JRow182. Sup, Mitch? Not sure if you discussed already, but would you consider Joey Bosa if the money was right based on injuries? The money's not going to be right. So for that reason, my answer to that is no. If you're going to pay somebody, let's just say $18 million per year, which I think is what Joey Bosa ends up getting. Like, if I'm going to sign somebody that played on the Chargers last year at edge, I'd rather just go out and get Khalil Mack. But I'd rather Josh Sweat. Joey Bosa to me is not somebody that I'm interested in when there's all these other edge options out there. Let's go to family over everything. Sign Darnold, Godwin, and then draft Genty at number 6. It would be an intriguing offense, I'm not going to lie. If it was up to me, though, if you went Darnold, Godwin, I am okay then actually not drafting Genty at 6. To me, then I would almost be more, let's wait on a running back. We can get another better running back that can also catch the football. Like, to me, in my mind, going out and signing Darnold means the Raiders are going to target Trevion Henderson. If the Raiders sign Justin Fields, I think that's when you see somebody like an Ashton Genty as a possibility at pick number 6. But I hear you loud and clear. Let's go to the next one. We're rolling in here. On today's show, we got, I think, 4 or 5 more supers, and then I'll get into the first segment. If I buy Panda Sups, will it bring the stream back? We're back now. Panda Sups, though. Shout out to them. You're going to hear about them a little bit later on. Code DRAFT, 25% off. Can we have a quarterback poll for who we want at QB, please? All right, I got you. Give me a second here. How about this? I'm going to give you, pick a QB, and I'm going to give you the names that I would say right now are the most likely names to be the Raiders starting quarterback this upcoming season. So I'll put in Aaron Rodgers. I'll put in Russell Wilson. I'll put in Justin Fields. And then I'll give you Aaron Rodgers.
Would you do Aaron Rodgers twice? Or Sam Darnold do you want to put in there?
Oh, Sam Darnold's got to be in there. Sorry. See, you're blind as a bat, but you got good ears.
Always listening.
Got good ears. All right, the poll is updated. Pick a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold. I am a believer that one of those 4 QBs will be the starter for the Raiders this upcoming season. Jersey boy, my trade idea was bad. Didn't know some teams are offering a first and second for DK, so maybe draft T-Mac and Henderson might be more bang for your buck. I'm telling you right now, if the Raiders say, hey, Mitch and Jersey boy Greaser, either you're giving up a first-round pick. I'm not giving up pick 6, I'll tell you that. But even if it's a first-round pick next year for DK, I'd rather just go get T-Mac. Like, I'd rather you either sign Chris Godwin or go out and get T-Mac. Because I'll also say this, I don't know if Godwin's going to get as much money as what was originally projected, simply because Devontae waters it down a little bit. The amount of extra receivers that are starting to hit the open market saturates it a little bit where, when T. Higgins got tagged, it was Chris Godwin's world and everybody else was living in it. Now, I don't even know if some teams would consider Godwin the top wide receiver on the open market.
Because he's not really on the open market, too. Like
who?
I don't even think Godwin's that much on the open market either. I think he's honestly.
You think he's going back to Tampa?
I think it's Tampa, and that's it. Like I think that's the only option for him. Not the only option for him as a player, but like he's very comfortable there. They like him a lot. Like works well with Baker.
Yep.
Like I just don't see him branching out. And he's been in Tampa his whole career. Like really warm weather down there. Like it'd be a big change to go anywhere else in the country, basically. So yeah, I think he's comfortable in Tampa.
His name gets brought up around the Raiders a lot, simply because Godwin won a Super Bowl with Brady.
Sure.
John Spytek was a part of the regime that drafted Godwin. So, there's a lot of connections there. But I do agree where if I was Chris Godwin, I would want to stay in Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield at 29 years old.
They're going to pay me. I play well here. Probably do my best at getting the next contract here, which is probably the last one where I get double-digit millions in my career.
Yeah.
The pros are very heavy to Godwin staying in Tampa.
Yep. All right, next one coming in, I believe it's from 93 Navman, because I want to say we're all caught up now. Also, I apologize. One of the construction guys here accidentally cut a cord and we lost internet for about 2 minutes. Appreciate everyone coming back with us. We have over 1,000 people watching this show. If you didn't leave, make sure you click that like button. It helps us out a lot. Nav, what's up, bro? Darnold is a perfect example of how a low-mid quarterback can perform with all-pro line and weapons at wide receiver and running back and a decent defense. See my point? Yeah, and when you can build a great team all around, it makes your quarterback look a lot better. It's what Pete Carroll and John Spytek have literally tried to do their entire career of. If you got a great line, if you got a great team around you, it just takes a lot more pressure off of a quarterback, and you can make a average quarterback look a little bit above average. I mean, it is what those two have done literally their entire career, but also can be the exact same thing said at the running back position, right? Josh Jacobs did not look good in 2023 because the team was bad. You put him on a good team the following year, and he looks great. Yeah, the year before that, Jacobs got a lot of touches, but, Saquon Barkley, same thing. Look at Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia compared to the New York Giants. Barkley, I think, has always been Barkley. It's just certain teams, certain fits, certain things going on makes a big difference. Lamont, this is the last one, and then we will get in to the very first segment that we have here on the Raiders Report. Chuggs just put out, which this is actually hilarious, Chuggs just put out the Christian Kirk trade video.
Yeah.
One of the very first comments on it is, Chuggs, go fix the Raiders stream, please.
Look what happens
hilarious.
when you leave me.
Shout out to Win for Day 2231. That's a hilarious comment. Lamont, poll equals nuff said on Darnold and did even put Sanders in the pool. Mic drop. Poll equal nuff said on Darnold and did even put Sanders. Well, it's because Sanders wouldn't be the Raiders starting quarterback in year one. And I don't know how many people believe me when I say that. It is what it is. If you do or you don't, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But the only quarterback in this year's draft that the Raiders would start in year one, I'm telling you, is Cam Ward. If they draft Shador at 6, he's not starting in year one. They're going to sit him for a year because that's what Brady would want, because they want to have a quarterback sit for a year or two and learn behind a veteran. It's why the Raiders are going to add a veteran. And it's, I get people are like, oh, I like Jackson Dart. You got to like Jackson Dart in 2 years from now. Liking Jackson Dart right now doesn't make a lot of sense because he won't start this year. Jalen Milroe, I think, is an interesting quarterback the Raiders could look at. And then Kyle McCord is an interesting quarterback. This is interesting. From Josina, follow-up, same league source that just told me right now the Seahawks want too much for DK Metcalf, in their opinion. Sound like the particular team is going to circle back. So Josina yesterday reported that teams would be interested to give up a third-round pick for DK, and now the follow-up is that the Seahawks are just asking for too much. The problem that Seattle has is they're asking for what it would cost to trade for DK if, DK didn't request to be traded. The fact that he requested to be traded totally changes everything. All right, I got Chuggs almost back here. I want to get into the segment here on the show, and then we will get into some of those super chats here in a moment. Like I see Shazam. I also see TJ Parkinson. We will get to those supers in just a little bit. Friendly reminder. Friendly reminder that I don't know why people randomly request money from me on Venmo. I'm just going to block you if you do it. So whoever just did it, you're no longer friends with me. Roger Braun, I want to say that I thought you were already in, but no, you're good. Roger Braun, you're in this. And then Jason Garcia, you are also in our March Madness bracket, which means only 26 more spots to go. If you want to get in, $50 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. So we haven't gotten through any of the segments yet. We've only answered questions. So we got, all right, cool. Cool. Everyone, shout out to Chuggs. He's back. He's back. You're good. Get set. You're good to go. Yeah, the one that we would be at is Shazam. I know Cam Scatabo isn't a starting caliber running back yet. I actually don't even know if that's true. And not everyone here is all that high on him, but just kind of curious if you know if the Raiders met with Cam. I'm biased since I'm an Arizona State fan. Loud Raiders. No, they did not meet with Cam Scatabo at the NFL Combine. To my knowledge, which, again, we had our indie team down there from Chat Sports. the 3 running backs that the Raiders met with in a formal setting was Trevion Henderson, Ohio State, Quinshon Judkins, Ohio State, and then Ashton Genty, Boise State. Those were the only 3 backs that they met with in a formal setting. But I like Cam Scatabo. And if you can get him on day 3, there's some good value to be had there. But that's not somebody that I want to be a RB1 on my roster. If you're the Raiders and if you're able to get a... See, here's the problem where Scatabo, I would like to see what he could do if he got some work. But at the same time, I don't know. He would be a good thumper. And I think that he would be a good thumper in the NFL. He might get humbled a few times because he's not going to be able to try to overpower people the same way that he did in college. But he's an underrated running back. And I think he's an underrated running back because he doesn't look like your typical running back. And people are always unsure of things that they don't know, and they undervalue him. Next one coming in here is from TJ. Fields with our team, we will see the playoffs. That's the hope, right? Until I see what the Raiders do elsewhere, I wouldn't say that we just bring in Justin Fields and we're going to go to the playoffs. That's a crazy statement. I think what your statement is, and the hope is, if the Raiders bring in Justin Fields, you're able to allocate a lot of the money that you would have saved on offense, defense, build a really good team, stack the draft, and then that roster ends up making the playoffs. That would be the hope. But to say just you add Justin Fields and the Raiders are going to the playoffs, which I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but if that's what you are saying, that's a crazy statement. That's a little bit of a crazy statement. But hey, what do we know, right? You're back.
Right. We're back.
You're back.
We're so back.
Uh-oh.
We are back. All right.
What do we got? So how about this? Let's get into the
seggies.
Let's get into the segment here, though. There's a part of me where there's at times, you want to do the segment last?
The wide receiver one?
No, the news and rumors last. That way, if anything happens, we can just slap it on the end.
Yeah, we can do that.
Is that okay?
So
I almost want to do the wide receiver targets just because of all the shit that just keeps happening around
so we'll do
wide receivers.
We'll do wide receiver targets first.
Let's do wide receiver targets first. Then we'll do the blockbuster trade ideas. And then we'll do the news and rumors. And if anything happens, we can just slap it on the back.
Yeah.
Or front, whatever. Sound good? Chuggs is back, my guy. It's good to have you back. So coming up here on the show.
We're going to do wide receiver targets first.
Yep.
Blockbuster trades.
Yep.
And then the latest Raiders news and rumors.
I think it sounds like a good old deal there. James, Gary, Adam, Raider Prime, Tony Brown. I see all y'all. Appreciate everyone still sticking around. Sorry for the technical difficulties that happened earlier. You can blame the construction guys over here. But
Spam Brett.
Yeah. Dude, when it happened, I was really like, what is going on? Because I saw everybody's comments, and I was like, that's weird. And then, oh, shit, yeah. It is what it is. All right, y'all. You ready?
Yeah. Sorry for the wait, guys. I saw the news around the Texans. I had to go to the restroom first. I was so excited, and then I went and made my video.
Oh, man. I don't know what you were doing in the restroom.
Jergens.
Cash Joey knows a thing or two about
Straight
the Jergens.
Jergens. Yeah. We met up with his chiropractor friend who cracks his back.
Helps him with his stiffness.
If you know what I mean.
Yep. All right, man.
This one is also Prize Picks.
This one's Prize Picks. Reminder, don't go to the Christian Kirk stuff.
No? You don't want to talk about Christian Kirk?
I don't want to talk about Christian Kirk.
You can go to the bio and say traded to the Texans.
I guess. We could. It's up to you. Which, dude, good deal for the Texans. Young player, good athlete if he could stay healthy.
Yeah, missed, what was it? He missed 12 games over the past 2 seasons. He's only 28 years old. Contract right now is about $15.5 million for this year. I think 2 things. The O-line market is going to be insane. I think teams are going to have to overpay for offensive linemen in free agency. I think that's why the Raiders
getting Jordan Meredith the other day as an ERFA is huge.
Huge.
Because he could possibly be a starter
Huge.
at $2 million,
Yep.
where guys who are projected and honestly probably should get $11 or $12 million a year, I think are going to get 18 and 19. I think guys like Mekhi Becton are going to get close to that $20 million, $25 million a year.
I mean, you might be right. I hope you're wrong, but you might be right.
Just from the trend of everything, because Trey Smith tag, immediately the Bears go out and trade for two guys already under contract that they don't have to pay in free agency.
Sure.
That kind of tells me something of the team with the biggest need at O-line went out and made those moves first. 2 trades at O-line.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be an inflated O-line market to where you see guys who are decent and good get great money.
Okay.
That's why I think the Texans made the trade, because they want to draft an O-lineman in round 1. They want to get a wide receiver and not worry about it in the draft until maybe round 2 or 3.
Interesting. All right, man. Let's go to wide receiver conversation. There's been a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation around the Raiders potentially adding a wide receiver. We know that they've been looking at a wide receiver 1 option. Free agency is right around the corner. This is a team that will add a receiver in the free agency pool, or they could trade for somebody. Coming up here on today's show, I'm going to give you some low-tier, mid-tier, and high-tier wide receivers that the Raiders could be interested in. You ready? Y'all ready? Coming up, first segment here on today's show. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and a report popped up earlier this week that said that the Raiders are looking for a wide receiver 1. Light bulb should go off in your head and go, you know what? If the Raiders are looking for a wide receiver 1, they might also just be looking for overall depth, because I like Jacoby Myers, I like Trey Tucker, but at the end of the day, we need more depth at that wide receiver position. So the names that you're about to see here on today's show are going to be around NFL free agency, and then also a few players that the Raiders could potentially trade for. And I'm going to do it based on categories. The first names I'm going to talk about are low tier, not going to have to spend a lot of money to go out and get them type of receivers that I would want Pete Carroll and John Spytek to bring in. Next level is going to be some mid-tier guys. You got to pay probably in that $7 to $12 million range. And then the high-tier players, where if you go out and you get them, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So the report from Vic Tafur on the Raiders wide receiver 1 says this: the Raiders feel Jacoby Myers is a good number 2 option, and that Trey Tucker is a solid number 3 receiver, but they're lacking a true number 1 wideout, which I do agree with, because I think Jacoby is one of the best number 2s in the league. And to be able to have him and Brock Bowers, and then if you're able to add another upgrade, obviously that is a perfect world. Some people might say, Mitch, just wait to the draft a guy like T-Mac, which I hear you loud and clear, but with free agency starting next week, I really only wanted to focus on people that the Raiders could bring in free agency or potentially trade for. If you don't already know, next week is going to be, I actually think, the craziest free agency period that we have ever done here at the Raiders Report. I'm going to be live Monday through Friday, probably over 30 hours worth of live content. If you enjoy the Raiders Report, if you enjoy just hanging out with us, we're going to be talking about all things NFL free agency. And then when the Raiders make a move, we'll be live. We'll be getting rowdy. Make sure your notifications are turned on, because I don't want you to miss it. So first, let's talk about some of these low-tier wide receivers. And I don't have these guys ranked in any particular order. I just want to be able to sit up here and talk to you about why I like them, how much it would cost, and every player that you see on this show is a player that I'm looking at all you in the eyes going, this is somebody that if the Raiders went out and signed him, I would be okay with it, / I could see a little bit of a connection there. Let's go to the first name that I'm going to bring up here. It's Mike Williams. And even though Williams isn't a wide receiver 1, I do think that he could be a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 with Jacoby, with Bowers. I still would want the Raiders to go out and draft another receiver because of the injury concerns that Mike Williams has. But you got to look at the connection he has with the Raiders wide receiver coach, Chris Beatty. Beatty and Williams were together from 2021 to 2023, and the Spotrac market value is $4.5 million. If you're somebody that wants the Raiders to be able to stretch the ball down the field, which is what Chip Kelly is going to try to do, Williams is somebody that can win one-on-one matchups, where if the Raiders go out and they get somebody like a Justin Fields, I do think that Mike Williams could be a potentially interesting option, because he's a big red zone dude who can win one-on-one balls, and Mike Williams is a name that's got that connection with Chris Beatty. Another name is Tyler Lockett. And the Raiders are interested in Lockett, and he could sign with the silver and black at any moment. It literally could happen right now that I am live on this show. He played underneath Pete Carroll from 2015 to 2023, and his Spotrac market value is $7.7 million. I'll admit it might be a little bit more than what I would want to pay him, but the way that I look at the Lockett deal would be this. You bring in Lockett, you let him and Trey Tucker battle it out for a wide receiver 3 spot, and we always use the term bridge quarterback. I would want Tyler Lockett to be a bridge wide receiver to let Trey Tucker know what it takes to be successful with Pete Carroll in the NFL. Bring Lockett in on a 1-year prove-it deal. Let him go out there and prove that he's got another year left in the tank, and then you hand the keys of the car to Trey Tucker. But the way that you could use both Lockett and Trey would be interesting to me in a Chip Kelly offense. Here's going to be the pinned comment, though, on today's show. I want you to name one wide receiver that you want the Raiders to add this offseason. It can be in free agency. It could be via trade. I want to know one wide receiver that you want this organization to go out and bring in. Let me know down below, please. Let's go to a name that I would want the Raiders to bring in, and I tried to do this with Matt Collins. I have once named Matt Collins the #1 best bang for your buck player that the Raiders could sign at the wide receiver position. Why? He's a great blocker, and he's got down the field speed. If you bring in Justin Fields, Matt Collins is somebody that I'm going to sit up here and pound the freaking table and say, got to bring him in. Great special teams gunner. Getting up there in age a little bit at age 31. But I'm telling you right now, Max Crosby loves this guy. A lot of Raiders players love this guy. And Hollins, to me, is a Dennis Rodman type of player where he is a wild card. You don't know what you're going to get, but he does the dirty stuff. And sometimes you need some guys that do the dirty stuff, because I could see the Raiders trying to play a little FU football. If the Raiders go out and sign somebody like Sam Darnold, I'll admit I won't love this move as much. Let's go to another player where I got a similar thought process with Nick Westbrook. And one of the best blocking wide receivers in the NFL. If you're the Raiders and you want to go out and add 2 wide receivers this offseason, I think going out and getting somebody cheap like a Nick Westbrook, like a Matt Collins, and then also going out and getting somebody big, maybe in my high tier, maybe in my mid tier, don't think is a bad idea. But another physical wide receiver who provides a good option in the red zone. He had 9 touchdowns last season on a really bad Tennessee Titans team. He had 4 touchdowns the year before that. I'm not necessarily looking at these low-tier guys as somebody that I want to be a wide receiver 1, but I need to be able to put dudes on the field in a running situation, and that's what Nick Westbrook would be able to help you with, where, you put Westbrook on the field, you're not going to use him the same way that you would use somebody like a Trey Tucker. So that's how I would think about that. Let's go to another player here who I have as a low-tier guy, but he's a big name, and it's Brandon Cooks. He played with Tom Brady in 2017, and I can remember Brady speaking very highly about Mr. Cooks. Last year was the first year since 2014, which when he was a rookie, that he started less than 13 games in a season. It's not going to cost you a lot of money to go out and get Cooks, but at $5.2 million, if you're telling me we have a precise route runner, Cooks paired with Aaron Rodgers, Cooks paired with somebody like a Sam Darnold would be how I would want that structure to go. Brandon Cooks with Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, I don't love that one nearly as much. So we have gone through all the low-tier wide receivers. Now we're going to go to some mid-tier names. And I'll admit, one of the mid-tier names that I was going to get to actually just got traded to the Houston Texans, Christian Kirk, for a 2026 7th-round pick. I'll tell you some other mid-tier quarterbacks here in just a moment. Before I get into it, though, I got to give a shout-out to the #1 daily fantasy sports app out there, Prize Picks. And wait till you see my Prize Picks lineup, because I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing this Saturday. Easy, exciting daily fantasy sports made easy. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Why? Because of the fun and entertainment that you're going to have when you're watching whatever you're watching. So for me, for example, this weekend, I'm going to invite some of my boys over. Alex is having her girls trip. She's in LA. She's on her bachelorette trip. So I'm going to have a dudes weekend, and I'm going to get the MMA fight, and I'm going to sit there and watch it. And I don't know a lot about the MMA. I'm not going to act like I do. But when you sit down and if you go more or less, guess what you're going to root for? That's what you're going to root for the entire time. It just makes it that much more interesting. So if I know I'm going to spend 2 to 3 hours on Saturday watching MMA, then this is just another reason for me to be able to put a little bit more money in my pocket and just enjoy the fights that much more. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I know who's going to win. That's a lie to you. But I am going to be able to say I'm going to have a lot of fun. And if you're like me and you plan on watching the MMA fights on Saturday, go to Prize Picks right now. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. So like I said, Christian Kirk, he literally just got traded to the Texans, and this is something that can happen before the new league year starts. I know it was reported yesterday that Christian Kirk ended up getting released by Jacksonville, just like Rodney Hudson, just like Gabe Jackson, technically just like what could still happen with Gardner Minshew. Essentially, they let teams know that they're going to release him, which is why Houston said, well, before you just go out and outright cut him, we'll give you a 7th-round pick and we'll take on his contract. And they said, yeah, we'll take whatever you're going to give us. 7th-round pick in 2026. Let's go to another player here, though, that maybe he's replacing, and it's Stephon Diggs, who tore his ACL last year, but he should be good to go by week 1, according to reports. He was a bad locker room guy in Buffalo. However, though, he was loved in Houston. And, when you see sometimes certain players, I'll admit, a lot of the reports coming out of Buffalo where it was like, who's the last player you would want to date your sister? The amount of players that said Diggs is concerning to me. But I think also when you grow up and you get up there in age, you have to grow up a little bit. If the Raiders wanted to go out and get an Aaron Rodgers or a Sam Darnold, Stephon Diggs is the route to go. If you're looking at a Russell Wilson, a Justin Fields, Stephon Diggs is not the guy that I would look at $13.5 million. Out of all the mid-tier wide receivers, the one that I would be the most interested in and the one that I believe is the most likely to join the silver and black is Keenan Allen, who grew up a die-hard Raiders fan. Allen played well to finish the season, and Caleb Williams loved him. And I'm telling you that right now, when you hear the way Caleb Williams talked about Keenan, it still shows me that Allen still got a little bit of juice. Are there injury concerns? Yeah, no doubt about it. But Allen and his intermediate route running for somebody like Sam Darnold, for somebody like Aaron Rodgers, this is the route that you want to go. On top of that, he's got a great relationship with our wide receiver coach, Chris Beatty. Beatty was with him in Los Angeles for 3 years, and then when Beatty ended up going to Chicago, he brought Keenan Allen over there with him, and that was a trade for a 4th-round pick. If the market value is somewhere around $11.1 million, I think it's an okay value. Obviously, you don't know how healthy Keenan's going to be, but to me, this could be a route where, let's say the Raiders spend big in some other areas, and instead of them going out and getting a true number 1, but they want to make sure that they get another really good number 2, somebody like a Jacoby Myers. I could see the Raiders doing Keenan Allen, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, and that could be an offense that this team might be able to put together. Coming up next here, though, if you want a wide receiver 1, this is where we're going. And I would say that these are the clear top wide receiver options, though one of the names I'm going to throw in here will surprise you. And it's going to surprise you because you're going to hear the name and you're going to go, man, there's no way I'm doing that. Hear me out. Hear me out. I got to show some love to our 2025 Bang MVPs. I actually just saw Ventrak down below in the live comments. What's up, Ventrak? I see you. He was our January MVP. Nabman was our February MVP. If you want to be our March MVP, right now the leader of that pack is Lord Cameron Abbott. Whoever bangs the most in March, I am going to hook you up with something that I think is the greatest Bang MVP award that we have ever given out. Also, though, we're talking about wide receivers, and there's going to be a lot of people say, well, Mitch, I just want the Raiders to draft a receiver to be a number 1. I hear you. It's totally fine. The only receivers that I know for 100% fact that Las Vegas met with in a formal setting at the Combine, T-Mac from Arizona, Emeka Buka from Ohio State, Jalen Noel, Tez Johnson. Those are the 4 wide receivers that you at least got to keep in the back of your mind of these are some dudes that the Raiders could just keep an eye on in the draft. I would say they're looking, though, to get a receiver either at pick number 6, either trading back into the 1st round, maybe he's there at 37, or somewhere here on day 2. Receivers that I'm just not interested in. I don't want nothing to do with Amari Cooper. Guy gave up on the Raiders, and he kind of looked pretty freaking bad at the end of last season with Buffalo. Devontae Adams. If I got to explain to you why I don't want Devontae Adams, then you definitely don't watch this show often. And then the last and final name, Deonta Johnson. Diva. I don't want any divas on this Raiders team. I'm done with them. Let's go to the high-tier wide receivers, though, okay? These are the names where if you bring in one of these dudes, get ready to get wild on the Raiders report, because I'm telling you, it's going to get really wet and get really wild. The top free agent on the market, it's Chris Godwin at the wide receiver position. SpyTech helped draft Godwin, and Brady won a Super Bowl with him. I would say it's between Tampa Bay and Las Vegas, and that Spotrac market value of 22.5, I think that's going to be pretty accurate. Now, again, maybe the Raiders would have to overpay him a little bit to get him out of Tampa Bay, but there's no doubt a connection there. But no matter what, if you're Las Vegas, if you bring in a Sam Darnold or an Aaron Rodgers, I would say Chris Godwin's the better pick there. If you bring in a Justin Fields, I don't think that Godwin is the right receiver. I need somebody that can hit sure-handed dudes over the middle of the field, and I need somebody that is an accurate passer that gets rid of the ball quickly. That's Rodgers, and then that's also Sam Darnold. That's not Justin Fields' game. Though, one of the things that I love about Godwin, imagine how sure-handed your players are with Jacoby Myers, who didn't drop a ball last season, dropping fewer than 6% of his catchable passes in 7 of his 8 seasons, and then you have Brock Bowers. That is a chain-moving team that is a sneaky, sneaky wide receiver core. Let's go to one that's going to surprise some people. This is a trade, and it's around Brandon Ayuk, and there's a report right now that the 49ers would trade Ayuk to, quote, just about anyone. And the fact that that says that, I mean, we've seen San Francisco, they just gave away Deebo Samuel for a 5th-round pick. I know that there's going to be a lot of people out there that when I say Brandon Ayuk, you're going to go, why would you do that? It's because of how much it would cost, right? Now, the source that I talked to is very close to the 49ers organization. He covers this team, and he said that maybe a 2nd or a 3rd. I don't think it's going to cost you a 2nd-round pick. I think it would be somewhere around a 3rd-round pick for Brandon Ayuk. Let's say it's pick 68. Let's say it's pick 73. However, though, the Raiders would only owe him $1.2 million in 2025. So you essentially get a 27-year-old receiver at $1.2 million, and then if he's bad, like let's say he's a disaster, you can move on from him in 2026, 2027, or 2028 because he has $0 million guaranteed on his contract. This is a big risk by San Francisco, the type of deal that they ended up giving Ayuk. However, though, we've seen the numbers that he's been able to put up with a dude like Rodgers, with a guy like Sam Darnold on a cheap 1-year prove-it deal. Is essentially what it would be for the Raiders. I was against this idea when I first had it brought up to me, but now understanding the way that contract works, I mean, you might even be able to get him for a 4th-round pick because it sounds like San Francisco is trying to clear money because they don't have any money right now. Speaking of trade, this would be the biggest one out of them all. It is DK Metcalf, and he requested a trade on March 5th, and his asking price right now, according to reports, is a 1st and a 3rd-round pick. I'm going to tell you this right now. There's not a team under the sun that is going to give Seattle a 1st and a 3rd-round pick. And this report came from Diana Rossini, which tells me Diana Rossini's source is not the Raiders. It is from Seattle, because this is the asking price that Seattle would leak out. Nobody's going to give that price. And as I say that, another report just came out from Josina that said the same league sources that told me right now the Seahawks want too much for DK Metcalf. So right now the Seahawks are asking for a little bit too much. If DK never asked for a trade, then you know what? They might be able to get a 1st-round pick for him. But because of his relationship with Pete Carroll, because the Raiders are one of the only teams that can not only make the trade, but then also pay him $28 to $30 million a year, the Raiders are at the very top of that list. There's going to be other teams fighting for DK, no doubt about it. But if you're a team that wants to add Justin Fields, I'll be real, I think Metcalf's going to be good on any team with any quarterback that he would have. But the number one quarterback that I think would actually be the best fit with DK and for the Raiders, this might surprise people, I actually think it's Justin Fields. Not for DK, for the overall Raiders team. Need a field stretcher, need a guy that can win one-on-ones, guy that's not afraid to block, gives you a good athlete. I think that's actually an interesting fit all around. So we went through our low, our mid, and our high-tier wide receivers. The Raiders are going to be aggressive. The Raiders are going to add a wide receiver in free agency, or they could potentially trade for one. No matter what, they need to add a receiver, which is something that I think every single Raiders fan could jump on. Whether it's a mid-tier, whether it's a low-tier, whether it's a high-tier, we got to be able to add something else to Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, for whichever quarterback we decide to bring in. Let's go to some super chats here. TJ, beer bong to start the show. LOL. No beer bongs today, man. And I only say that because I know how difficult next week's going to be on my body. And I mean, it's a game day. It is Raiders Friday happy hour for 5 straight days. I mean, we're going to be throwing beers down left and right next week. Nice. I'll tell you this, though. Like, one time somebody asked me, like, Mitch, can we, like, just play a drinking game? If you guys want to play a drinking game at home, like, I'll still make up deals. Just don't get mad at me for not drinking. You know, like, we'll do $50 beer bongs, and if you guys want to throw down a bong every single time somebody bangs, I'm okay with it. I just also know that I would be dead by next week. Noah Peters, what's up, dude? You say no diva, yet want Brandon Ayuk. I hear you loud and clear. The difference is, though, Brandon Ayuk at $1.2 million, I can deal with a diva that has his upside at $1.2 million. I don't want to deal with a diva that I got to pay $15 to $20 million a year. Like, you make a good point. I hear you loud and clear. Loud and clear. But $1.2 million diva that could be Brandon Ayuk, I'll take that chance. I think I would take that chance. And that's really the truth. Wide receivers is a diva-dominated position. Raider Nation 88, come on, Mitch. You know, it's crazy, man. It's I'm 32 now. I mean, it catches up to you. I mean, anybody that, think about like when I was in college, dude, we could go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, rally, and Sunday we'd wake up and be like, are we ready to do this again? Now, I'm not kidding you. I mean, you can ask Nabman the other day. He was trying to get a hold of me, and I was like, dude, you guys just kicked my ass too much. Like, I got home, I had to crash. I woke up the next morning. I didn't really get my day going until, 9 o'clock, which maybe that's not early for some people. But for me to get my day started at 9, that's late. Like, I am a early riser. I'm somebody where I can get up at 6 a.m. and let's get the day started. When those days happen, I can feel it now. Nick, which running back are you hoping the Raiders pick up in the draft or free agency? It's a great question. I actually don't really want the Raiders to pick up anybody in free agency. I think this running back class is so deep that hopefully Sincere McCormick can come back healthy. And the fact that Sincere McCormick could potentially come back healthy, you could still draft a running back or two and be okay, right? Now, if you told me Sam Darnold also wanted somebody like Aaron Jones, then maybe. Yeah, I don't know. We got to make sure that wasn't on because that was really loud. But, okay. I can hear it, so. Okay. That's all. I just want to make sure. I would just want the Raiders to target running backs in the draft, where I want good value, and it's going to determine what type of team we're looking like come to the draft, which I know is kind of a shitty answer, but answering draft questions before free agency starts is almost being like it's breakfast time and somebody's already asking you for dinner. Well, I don't know. I got to get through breakfast first. What up, Gilbert Moreno? Re-sign Nate Hobbs. Again, it depends what the price is. I've seen it where it was reported, I want to say it was like 2 weeks ago, that somebody thought that Nate Hobbs was going to get 3 years for $30 million. I think Nate Hobbs is a good player. I really do, and I want the Raiders to bring him back. There is no chance under the sun that I'm bringing back Nate Hobbs for 3 years for $30 million. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you told me you could guarantee me that he's going to be healthy for at least 15 games in all 3 of those years, I'd probably do it. And I think that Hobbs could actually get a contract if he was healthy. But the injury concerns around Nate are legit, and it sucks to say that, but even games where, you go back and you look at how many games Nate Hobbs missed. Think about also how many games he played injured, where he always just seemed to have something lingering. I would say the most I would be willing to pay Hobbs on a contract would, if it's a 3-year deal, I'd say like 3 years at $18 million. That would be how much I would want to see a deal get done for Hobbs. Noah, not hating on you, by the way. Love what you do for the nation. Dude, you're good. I don't even care if you do hate on me. And like the way that this show works, the way that any friendship and any relationship, and like if you say something that I don't like, Noah, I have no problem sitting up here going, I think that's a dumb idea. I don't like doing it because at the end of the day, I know like if you're actually good with your friends, if you can't bust balls, then are we even friends? Like Chuggs is black and blue over there, dude. Like it's just a bag, man. It's wild. Snake 12. They look like that stress ball you got. Snake, with Chip Kelly, what's Greg Olsen going to do exactly? What's Greg Olsen going to do exactly? He's going to work with the quarterback. Sorry, another one. Jags continue to clear cap space, releasing two-time Pro Bowl return man Devin Duvernay. It's an interesting name. I mean, they gave Zay Jones three. I mean, do you remember the deal Zay Jones got from that? I think it was like 3 for 30. Kirk got, I think it was like 3 for 84. And they did another one, which I don't remember. Was it Calvin Ridley? Oh, that's right. Buffalo. They gave him a huge deal. With Chip Kelly, what's Greg Olsen going to be doing? Exactly. Quarterback coach. And that's what you want Greg Olsen to do. Like, you don't want Greg Olsen calling plays. But he is one of the smarter QB coaches in the NFL. One of the more respected QB coaches in the league. What's up, Nav? I see you. Let's be real about the diva combo. Not everyone is Jerry Rice or Tim Brown, ever. All wide receivers will have a level of diva. It's about how much of a diva. I mean, if Devontae Adams would have still been able to play at a high level, and if you told me right now, I'm going to get the Devontae that's going to get me 100 catches, 1,400 yards, and double-digit touchdowns, you can deal with a little bit of diva, right? It's just the balance where I'm not trying to, like Brandon Ayuk at $30 million a year, that's too much diva for $30 million. Brandon Ayuk, a little bit of, even if it's a lot of diva at 1.2, that's okay. The NFL, life in general, is about balance. And, though, you know, Jerry Rice, not a diva. Tim Brown, I've heard he had a little diva in him. I've heard some. I think Tim Brown is somebody that I know does a lot of good down here where we live, in like the area like Dallas, Fort Worth type of area. I've heard from some people that Tim's got a little diva in him. Let's go to TJ Parkinson. Let's trade up for Marvin Harrison and draft Ibuka. I don't understand what you're saying. Are you saying you think Emeka Ibuka is Marvin Harrison? I think is what you're saying, because I read it as let's trade up for Marvin Harrison Jr., because he ain't going anywhere. I think Ibuka, obviously with his Chip Kelly connection, could be somebody. Yeah, no chance, dude. I think if you wanted to get Marvin Harrison Jr., you have to give up pick number 6, and you might have to give up something else. I bet it'd be like Jacoby Myers and pick 6. I actually think that's probably what it would cost you. I'm not interested in that. No chance. Connor Morgan, what's up, dude? Yeah, I mean, they might still say no. You're right. What do you think of drafting Nick Nash in the 5th or 6th? I like Nick Nash, dude. I've actually drafted Nick Nash in a few mocks. I forget which mock it was. Wow, another Jags move. Releasing tight end Evan Ingram. That's actually a pretty big name. If for teams out there that need a tight end, like the video that I put out earlier this morning of if the Raiders trade away Michael Mayer, who's a good tight end replacement, Evan Ingram deserves to be in that. Yeah, dude, tens of people watching. Now, a lot of stuff happening right now around Jacksonville, which it looks like almost they're doing what the Raiders did yesterday. But they're just churning out stuff.
They have a new GM. They're clearing house.
Yeah.
New GM, new coach.
Yep.
They're probably like, you know what? We are starting from square one. We have our the only thing they say is we have our quarterback and we have our edge rushers. Everything else is done. Because
they just traded away Christian Kirk, released Evan Ingram. I just saw a tweet that said, Brian Thomas Jr. is currently projected for 396 targets and 41 touchdowns. Though, I don't think the Jags score 41 touchdowns next season. We'll see what Liam Cohen can do. But I am a fan of Nick Nash. He's probably one of those more under-the-radar, small school receivers, but does a lot of the little things really well. Good route runner. I'm okay with the idea of somebody like Nick Nash. Later on, though, I'll tell you this. I actually don't know if he's going to be there for you in round 6. I think he's more of a round 4, round 5 guy based on some of the things that we heard from the Combine. I got one more super chat to get to, and then let's go a little bit crazier. I want to talk about some blockbuster trades that the Raiders could potentially do this offseason. And there's been a lot of rumors around different trades that end up going down. So I want to be able to get into that segment. Also, reminder, if you have a chance to get in for our March Madness Duck Race, it is a $50 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365, which we've already had 4 more people get in today. I'll see. I don't have anybody else in. So I'm going to say right now, there is 28 spots remaining. One person is going to win $1,600, which is, that's a good chunk of change right there. A real good chunk of change right there. Jeff, what's up, Jeff? Anthony Green, do we have a duck race today? No, I didn't really plan on doing a duck race today. I kind of want to fill out March Madness, and then I'll concentrate on doing other duck races. So my objective is to get March Madness filled out first, because I also want the real ones to get in it. Like, to me, it's more fun, and it's probably more fun for y'all as well when it's like names that you recommend, like that you see. Like if it's 93 Nabman against Anthony Green in a duck race, I mean, like, that's electric to me, because I feel like I know both y'all. Where I know next week during free agency, you're just going to get a lot more people that maybe don't watch the show all the time, and I want to be able to give $1,600 away to a real one and somebody that watches the show. So my concentration today is really about trying to get more people in this duck race. So the long-term duck race. Hopefully that answers your question. But couple super chats, and then we will get into that next segment here. So I see Eric and then Steezy. Heard people are calling for Kyler. Him with Chip Kelly would be lethal. Yeah, I'm with Chuggs here. I don't see why Arizona would trade him. Like, they just drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. where they did. Yeah, when did they get his contract extension? That was, what, 2 years ago? Maybe 3 years ago? I remember the whole Call of Duty saga. I don't remember his contract exactly. However, though, like, teams could call about certain quarterbacks, sure. And I agree with you. I think Kyler Murray with Chip Kelly would be really fun. I mean it. I think it would be a really fun offense. Dynamic offense. But I don't know what you'd have to give up. Multiple first-round picks in order to do it. I almost feel like it was 2 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago. It's got to be. Right before last offseason. Yeah, then I don't see why they would move on from him. Yeah, it's not that bad, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think so. All right, next one. I mean, I would say if you wanted to get that trade done, you're giving up your pick 6 this year, you're giving up a first-round pick next season, and then maybe with that pick 6, they draft a quarterback, but 2 1s and 2 2s? Maybe. Okay. I trust you to know that. 2 firsts, 2 seconds for Kyler Murray. I don't know. Steezy said Sam Darnold, then draft Jackson Dart. We would be set. And that could be the Raiders' plan. I'll be real. Again, I'm not a big Jackson Dart fan. I don't really see all the hype around him. He's a project quarterback to me, and if you're going to go project QB, there's some other options that I would be a little bit more intrigued by. But, you know, if you go out and get Darnold, I really think when you look at the way that they structured Crosby's contract and you look at just the way that, you know, for the Raiders to go out and try to get Matthew Stafford means they're trying to win right now, which is almost why I don't know if they draft a quarterback on day 1 or day 2, because you would want to be able to use those picks to help you win right now. Jackson Dart doesn't help you win for a year or two, and the Raiders would know that. And knowing that, I think that they're trying to set themselves up. Now, again, you could make the argument of saying, well, we got to have a franchise quarterback when 2027 rolls around, because that's when Max's deal is saying, if we're not winning by now, then I could be potentially looking to get out. You're giving yourself a 2-year window. with Pete Carroll being on 3-year deal and the way that they structured Crosby's contract, they're giving themselves a 2-year buffer to be great in 2027. But with that being said, you don't trade for Matthew Stafford if you have the mindset of that you're also going to draft a quarterback. If you traded for Matthew Stafford, you're using all the free agency and all of your draft picks to help your team win and that quarterback win right now. And obviously Dart doesn't do that. But I'm also not a big Dart fan. He's good. He's not somebody that I would take in round 1, and he could end up going in round 1. I will admit, Jackson Dart with somebody like Kelly that could learn for a year or two, that's the route. I'm okay with it. But he's not ready to start in year 1. And I don't think he'd be ready to start after year 1 either. What do you got? Oh, I thought you were going to say something. All right, y'all. Let's get into the next segment coming up here on today's show, which is going to be around some blockbuster trades. And I love trades. And I think everybody kind of does. They're fun. They're crazy. You never know what's going to happen. And this week, there's been a lot of trades. So I wanted to talk about it. Murray. Yeah. I mean, 5 for 230 is literally what the Deshaun Watson deal was, but Watson's was 100% guaranteed. Yep. Yep. All right, TJ Parkinson, I will get to yours after the segment that's here on the show. I should also say that I see Mr. Noah Suavemente. You are in. Ooh, a little tushy action. Okay. A little tushy action. I'm ready. Carlo, live mock draft. Yes, we will do live mock drafts where I'll let you guys do it. Yeah, we'll do it during free agency week. We'll do it, obviously, in April when free agency's over on top of that leading up to the draft. But, like, we're going to be live so many hours next week where, I mean, there's going to be a day where I bet you we do a live mock draft and it takes 2 hours to do it. And we're just sitting up here discussing. We'll let the Raiders report people pick it, and then we'll just run through it all and kind of talk about the mock draft that ended up happening. But I promise you next week is one of my favorite weeks here at Chat Sports. We put a lot of time, put a lot of effort into what we provide, and next week is a good opportunity for us to kind of, flex our muscles here and show people why there's a lot of people that make YouTube content, but I think Chat Sports does it the best. And I might be a little bit biased, but I think our overall product is better than anybody on YouTube, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Coming up here on the show, blockbuster trades. I'm going to talk about Raiders players that we could trade away. I'm also going to talk about players that are on the trade block that we could trade for, and you're going to see how much it's going to cost. This show is a little different, but I promise you, it's going to be fun. Who else misses blockbuster? I know I do. So coming up here on today's show, we're going to talk about some blockbuster trades that the Raiders could pull off during NFL free agency. I'm going to discuss players that the Raiders could trade away, like you'll see here in a little bit. I'm also going to talk about some players that the Raiders could trade for. On top of that, the players that the Raiders could trade away, I'm going to tell you who some other teams could be in terms of potential landing spots. I'm also going to give you a trade for every single player that you see here on today's show. And every trade that you're going to see is one that I've never shown before on the Raiders Report. If you want to hang out with Jeremy Chuggs and I every single day next week, we will be live every day here on the Raiders Report. And when breaking news happens, we're already probably going to be live. If you want to hang out with us for 30-plus hours next week, make sure you subscribe. Make sure those notifications are turned on. I think we're going live on Monday at like 10 o'clock our time. So 11 a.m. Eastern. Be ready for y'all on the West Coast. A lot of Jeremy Chuggs and I next week. Let's go to the first name here on the list that I think the Raiders could potentially trade away, and it's Andre James. JPJ, he's going to be the center of the future, and let's be real. James struggled a little bit last season. He did improve from 2019 to 2023, and trading him saves the Raiders $5.3 million. You eat only $3.4. There are going to be some teams out there that are going to be looking for some potential centers, and anytime that you can find an offensive line that at least gives you a little bit of flexibility, there will be teams that are interested. To me, if you were to ask me, Mitch, who are some teams that could be interested in Andre James, I would say the Jacksonville Jaguars, Indianapolis Colts, Green Bay Packers, Atlanta Falcons, Panthers, any team that is looking for a center. But to me, there was some news that happened at the time that I'm recording this video on March 6th that Jacksonville's number one center, Mitchell Morse, he retired earlier today. So what happens if Jacksonville, who right now is trying to move around some players, they're trying to save some money, could they potentially go out and get a starting center in Andre James? And I would say all it would cost is a 5th-round pick. If right now, and every trade that you see on today's show is a trade that I would do. So right now, I would say 5th-round pick for Andre James. That's good enough for me because I don't think he's going to start on this team anyway. Let's go to another player here that I could see potentially being dealt. It is Michael Mayer. Brock Bowers is the Raiders' tight end one of the future. There's been reports out there that the Raiders are shopping him, that the teams are calling, and multiple teams are interested. For the Raiders, though, if you move on from Mayer, you save barely anything, and you eat $1.9 million. Depending on if the Raiders are actually shopping Mayer and they're saying, hey, we'll let you go out the door, I really think it's only going to cost like a 6th-round pick in order to get that deal done. If the Raiders aren't interested in trading him, then that deal is going to be a lot lower. Some teams that I could see being interested in Mayer, Jags on here as well, because when I first designed this show, I did not know that Jacksonville was going to do everything that they did, and they just released Evan Ingram at the time that I'm recording this bad boy. So I could see the Jets, the Patriots, especially New England. You're going to see New England on here a lot because Josh McDaniels, that regime, there's a lot of players that are from that regime that we could potentially be moving on from. The Titans also are going to be on here a lot because of Dave Ziegler, and that's a team that it sounds like they want to add a lot of young pieces and add a little bit more draft capital. So you know what? I said this. The Tennessee Titans, they pull off a deal. Dave Ziegler says, we need a tight end. We need a good tight end too. And here's the deal that ends up going down. The Raiders get a 4th-round pick, 102. This is actually the very first pick of the very first pick of the 4th round. In return, the Titans get a 6th-round pick, the final pick in the 6th round, which Tennessee doesn't have any 6th-round picks, I believe. And then also, they get Michael Mayer. I'm always curious to see what you guys have to say about all these trades, and you're going to see a lot of them here on today's show. So please go down to the comments and give me some yeses. And if you want me to know which trade you're talking about, just put whatever the title is. So Mayer trade idea, let me know what you're thinking down below. How about this? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. And I love that we always talk about trades. And yet, trades are, something that doesn't happen all the time. So predict it. Look into your crystal balls. How many trades will the Raiders make before the NFL draft? I'm going to be looking. My answer coming up here in just a moment. The special number I'm going to go with is I'm going to go with 3. I could see the Raiders doing 3 trades, and I'm not saying that they're all going to be blockbuster deals. Typically, trades are under the radar type of trades. And we'll talk about some more players here that could end up going down. But the magic number I'm going to go with, just because it feels good, 3 feels like a good amount of trades that could end up going down. Let's go to another player here that could be dealt away. I'll be real. I don't know how many teams would actually be interested in Jack Jones, considering the fact that they would have to pay him $3.3 million. But he is in the final year of his contract, 42 games played, and might not be the best fit with this new regime. This has been something that I've talked about before where, Pete Carroll's going to want a certain type of corner. That's not Jack Jones. There's also a team that we don't want to have any divas, drama on. That's not really Jack Jones. Jones without Antonio Pierce has not been good throughout his career. I'll admit, we need depth at corner. And if we're just desperate for a corner, then you probably just hang on to him. You pay him. It is what it is. But I could see the Raiders be willing to give up Jack Jones for, not a lot at all. The teams that you're about to see do need cornerback help. And these are teams that are looking for a solid cornerback 2, cornerback 3, which I don't really know if Jack is a corner 2 or corner 3. For the sake of this video, I'm going to call him a cornerback 2 so we get at least a little bit more value. The team that I would say right now is the most likely to trade for him would be the person that has the biggest connection with Jack Jones. And I'm just going to say the Pittsburgh Steelers because Gerald Alexander, the Raiders safety coach last season, went back to Pittsburgh. So out of all those teams, out of all the coaches, he's probably the only one that at least kind of knows what you're going to be able to get with Jack, but it's not going to cost a lot. 2026 7th-round pick. If I was the Raiders, I would take this trade to be able to save the 3.3 and move on from Jones. Let's go to another player here that I could see the Raiders potentially moving on from this offseason, and it's Thayer Munford. Munford is also in the final year of his contract in 2025. For a new regime, if you don't believe that you're going to bring back some of these players, you just trade them now, and you just get whatever you absolutely can get out of them. Because Carroll and Spytek, Munford's third regime, which kind of sucks when he first got drafted in the 7th round by Dave Ziegler, by Josh McDaniels. I actually was hoping that Munford could be a little bit better. He really struggled at the end of last season, but there would be teams interested in Munford. He's an Ohio State product. Many years ago, and I say many, back in 2021, 2022 area, he could have been a first-round pick, and a lot of people thought that he was going to be a first-round pick coming out of Ohio State. The teams that I would say would be the most interested in Munford are the top 3 teams that you're about to see here on screen. New England, because Josh McDaniels drafted him. Titans, because Dave Ziegler ended up drafting him. The New York Giants, because the first 2 years that Munford was in the league, Carmen Brasillo, the Raiders' old offensive line coach, was a big part of, I thought, Munford looking a lot better. And if I was Munford, I'd want to go play with the New York Giants overall, because I think the Giants are a intriguing team, no doubt about it, but I think that's right, actually. Oh, I was going to say, I didn't realize what it said. Sorry, Chuggs talking to me in my ear. So the trade that ends up going down here, and we're going to be a little bit different. I tried to throw a bunch of different trade ideas out at you just simply because it's boring to just show the same thing over and over and over again. So the deal that I have here is the New York Giants. Thayer Munford goes to New York, and also they get a 7th-round pick 224. The Raiders get a 5th-round pick in 2026. So the Giants didn't have a 6th-round pick, I believe. So because of that, we couldn't get a 6th-rounder in return. And typically, when you give a pick the following year, it's considered a 2026 5th, I would say, is considered by NFL teams a 2025 6th-round pick. Hopefully, that makes a little bit of sense there. But let me know what you think of that one. This one is going to upset some people just because it's Aiden O'Connell. But if the Raiders sign a quarterback and draft a QB, then that could potentially make AOC the quarterback 3. I know that Pete Carroll wants to be able to add quarterbacks to this room to create competition, and Aiden's been working this offseason with Tom Brady, and I'm not sitting up here just saying that I want to trade Aiden. That's not the case at all. If anything, I'm trying to take advantage of the value that Aiden has, because I really believe right now is the highest that Aiden O'Connell's trade value is probably ever going to be. First 2 years, played 20 games, had 17 starts underneath his belt, and I love the report by Mike Dixon that's saying, like, hey, Aiden O'Connell's been working with Tom Brady. That's going to drive up his value a little bit. But I think Aiden's too good to be a quarterback 3. And if I am saying that he's too good to be a quarterback 3, I just want to take advantage of the value, because there will be teams picking up the phone and calling the Raiders about AOC. And the team that's going to do it, I'm telling you right now, is the New England Patriots. Dave Ziegler was a part of that regime. Miami needs a solid backup quarterback behind Tua Tagovailoa. The New York Jets, they don't really know what their quarterback situation is going to be. Could be a backup there. And then also Jacksonville, they're looking for a backup behind Trevor Lawrence, and that could be another regime that goes out and looks at them. Plus, we have the Liam Cohen connection to be able to get that call done. But let's be real. If Aiden O'Connell gets traded this offseason, I'm going to say it's to the New England Patriots. And there's going to be a lot of people that want me to put Joe Milton in this trade. I actually think Aiden is better than Joe Milton. I will admit Milton has higher upside, but if you were to tell me right now which quarterback would I want on my team to help me win football games in the future, I would say Aiden O'Connell is a better quarterback than Joe Milton. But I would say that New England could potentially give up a 5th-round pick. You could pick 145, and you send Aiden to go be a backup in New England with Josh McDaniels. Coming up here, though, this is where it's going to get fun, this is where I would say blockbuster is about to hit. Coming up, the players that the Raiders could potentially trade for, which is probably why a lot of y'all wanted to tune in to today's show to begin with. Before I get into all of that, I know that a lot of times on this show, especially when trades go down, it turns into a shit show. Here's the thing. I don't want your bathroom to be a shit show. So shout out to our sponsor here, Tushy. March Madness is a sacred time of yelling at the TV. Also, free agency. Sacred time yelling at the TV, maybe the Raiders report. While deleting a few beers, crushing some Zaw, there's no doubt your bracket's going to bust this month. That doesn't mean your butthole has to as well. Aura is Tushy's brand new electric bidet with an auto-open lid and see instant warm water that never runs cold and UV sterilization for next level hygiene. Aura by Tushy easily attaches to your existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing. Installation is simple, takes about 10 minutes to complete. Literally anyone can do it. It's easy to install but easier to use. Sit, cleanse, and dry using the built-in air dryer. That's right. Cleaning yourself after using the bathroom is now hands-free. Reclaim your comfort zone in the bathroom. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code CHAT at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with promo code CHAT. I'll be real with you. I was always a little bit afraid to use a bidet, and then I used one for the first time. I'll be real. I don't know why they're not in every single home. I mean, shit is dope, man. I mean, it's a game changer. I'll tell you this. It's not a great water fountain, but it is a great way to clean your behind. And I love the fact that they're sponsoring the Raiders Report. So please use code CHAT at hellotushy.com/chat. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. Let's go to some players that the Raiders could potentially trade for it if they did. Anytime a trade happens, we turn this show into a shit show. Shout out to Hello Tushy for sponsoring. We're going to first talk about Evan Neal. He is an offensive tackle for the New York Giants, and Neal is in the final year of his contract, and the Giants are a team that they need to win this season. This is going to be an organization that I think goes all in to try to win right now, because if they don't, their GM, their head coach is going to be gone. And I do think that he's a much better run blocker, and he could be put at offensive guard. You might be able to keep him at right tackle if you want to put him in there for competition with DJ Glaze. But I'll be real. I think Evan Neal could be an interesting offensive lineman, where Chuggs brought up a very interesting point during our live show. Look at a team like the Chicago Bears. They go out, they make two different trades to help their offensive line. There's been some reports, there's been some speculation that offensive linemen could be getting a lot more money on the open market and free agency. And if you're the Raiders and you're a little bit worried about that, it's only going to cost you $1.1 million in 2025. You could potentially give him a new deal, but this was a player that, I'll be real, I can't believe he's been bad. And he's been really, really bad on the New York Giants. He's a gigantic human being, and I would treat Evan Neal the way that the Philadelphia Eagles treat a Mekhi Becton. If you're not athletic enough to be a tackle, you are a humongous dude. Can I put you at guard? Can we be physical? And can we go from there? And you already know the Giants aren't going to keep him. He's a backup right now behind Jermaine Illuminor. It's not going to cost a lot. So because I know it's not going to cost a lot, let's give up a 6th-round pick, which is pick 214 for the Raiders, and you get Evan Neal, somebody that was drafted, I believe, number 5 overall or number 7 overall just a few years ago from the University of Alabama. And I know Alabama offensive linemen scare people here, but I think this is a decent deal. Let's go to another name here that is on the market, and it's Greg Newsome II. The Raiders are looking to add a cornerback this offseason. The fact that Newsome is in the final year of his deal with the Browns, he is coming off his career worst year. But I do think that there needs to be something said of when you're in a dumpster fire of an organization, and if you're a Browns player and you're looking at everything going on right now with Deshaun Watson, it's probably unmotivating to be there every single day. Cleveland, they're going to be sellers this offseason, and if the Raiders were to trade for him, it's only going to cost you $13.4 million in 2025, but this is a round 1 type of talent, and this is somebody, when healthy, is a legit corner in the NFL. Like, this is a legit cornerback 1 in the league. Still pretty young, but if I told you it's $13.4 million this year, and then you could give him an extra deal, like, you're looking at some guys out there that are getting $15, $16, $17 million per year, and since it's not going to cost you a lot, you could look at the Raiders and say, this is a cheaper route than signing somebody in free agency. Yes, you have to give up a draft pick, but still, he's a young, lanky corner that is a great fit, I think, of what Pete Carroll is ultimately looking for. But I would say go back and watch his tape in 2023. Go back and watch his tape in 2022, because there was a lot of people that thought that Greg Newsome was one of the better corners in the league in 2023. So I reached out to our Brown source here at Chat Sports, and I said, how much? And he said if you're willing to take on his contract, 5th-round pick is what he would want, which the Browns get pick 144. The Raiders get a legit number 1 corner. And even if he's not a legit number 1 to some people, I would say Greg Newsome at corner would be the same confidence level that you should have as Jacoby Myers being a wide receiver. Maybe not a great one, but a really good number 2. Shout out to Tushy. Let's go to another name here at the cornerback spot, and this is somebody, again, you could potentially buy low on. When he was first coming out of college, I loved J.C. Horn. And my objective of doing this show is, I know the Raiders want to add a corner. If you got to pay somebody on the open market $13, $14, $15, $16, $17 million, whatever the hell it's going to cost you, or you give up a lower draft pick, you pay somebody a lower value, and then you have a super talented player on your team. Injuries are the number one concern here with Horn. Coming off a career year, which is why I like it, but he did miss 31 games in his first 4 years, which is an ugly, ugly situation. But turn on the tape with Horn. You saw this year that Horn, when he was drafted, I think he was drafted like top 10, number 8 overall, I want to say, by Carolina. When you saw him first coming out, people were like, this guy's a difference maker. And I actually remember J.C. Horn was getting some comps to Richard Sherman when he was first coming out from, was it South Carolina? Yeah, South Carolina. But 68 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 13 PBUs. He can do it all. And the fact that he can do it all is why I'm intrigued by this one. So I wanted to get a little bit different here. I wanted to throw together a different trade idea. Here's the trade that I put. The Panthers, they receive pick number 68. In return, the Raiders get J.C. Horn, and you get a 5th-round pick. Carolina's not going to get that much for Horn, who is a good player, but if Carolina wanted them, they would just, pick up his 5th-year option, or they would just go out and extend him. If that doesn't happen, he's going to be on the open market, which means he's not going to cost nearly as much as what some people could potentially think it ends up costing. Let's go to another player here that's been getting a lot of rumors around him. It's Brandon Ayuk, and there's reports out that the 49ers would trade Ayuk to just about anybody. Some people might say, no, I don't want Ayuk. It's going to cost too much. Look at the contract again. If the Raiders were to trade for Brandon Ayuk, it would cost them $1.2 million in 2025. And the fact that he's got $0 million guaranteed in 2026, 2027, and 2028, if all it costs you is a 2nd or 3rd, I know I don't want any divas, but a player that has put up the numbers that Brandon Ayuk has at $1.2 million, and it's essentially a prove-it deal. I saw what Brandon Ayuk looked like last year. He looked like he was fat, he was out of shape, and he didn't care. If he ends up getting traded and he's making technically only $1.2 million with 0 guaranteed, that's going to be an eye-opening experience for Ayuk, and I think it's going to wake him up a little bit, and I think you're going to get a much better version of number 11. So if it costs you pick 73, if you told me right now we traded Devontae Adams for Brandon Ayuk last season, I would have said, great job, Raiders. You got younger, and maybe you even got a little bit better. So because of that, this is the deal that I'm going to put forth on the table. Though, the craziest trade I'm about to show you is going to be this one. DK Metcalf. And we know Metcalf's got a great relationship with Pete Carroll. If the Raiders go out and trade for him, you're going to have to give him a brand new deal, probably somewhere in that $27 to $30 million range. But Seattle apparently wants a 1st and a 3rd. They're not going to get a 1st and 3rd. When you listen to all the reports out there, nobody's going to give them a 1st and a 3rd. But you know what? I wanted to do it differently because the amount of DK Metcalf trades I've done on this show, I said to myself, how can I do it a little bit different? And I said, okay, if Seattle wants a 1st-round pick, I'm going to give them a 1st-round pick. Now, the only way that I see the Seahawks doing the trade that I'm about to show you is if they legitimately don't want to pay a receiver and they want to go out and draft T-Mac. If they don't want to draft T-Mac, I don't see why on hell that they would do this trade. But if Seattle wants a 1st-round pick, I go, all right, let's swap first. Pick 6, pick 18. According to the trade value chart, if this trade were to end up going down, Seattle would have to give up a 2nd and a 3rd-round pick to go from 6 or go from 18 all the way up to 6. So by this value, by that logic, because we are swapping 1st-round picks, the Raiders get DK Metcalf for essentially a 2nd-round pick, and you're also going to give me pick 82, which is a 3rd-rounder. If Seattle don't want T-Mac, I don't see why the hell that they would ever do this deal. But if you want to be able to keep great receivers because you lost Tyler Lockett, you lost DK Metcalf, and you still want maybe the best receiver in the draft, but you're going to be able to get him on a rookie deal, then this would be the reason why Seattle would want to do it. I'm telling you this right now, and I know it's maybe not a popular opinion to trade back in the 1st round to everybody. I would do this trade in a heartbeat. I don't think Seattle does, but this shows the Raiders report, and this would be a lot of fun to me. This would be outstanding. So name a player you want the Raiders to potentially trade for. Let me know down below. I'm curious what you got to say. Out of all the names that I brought up, the one that I think actually might make the most sense, either Greg Newsome or J.C. Horn. Good value there. But DK would be the one that I think would go the most crazy on this show. Speaking of crazy, Ty Bones Davis!
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 1
dropping a C note to say what's up to the nation. And shout out to Sweeney, Nabman, Zorn, Pace, Ron, etc. Salute, fam. As for our quarterback situation, I don't care if they put Grandma Happy Pants out there. If they can get us points, then do it.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know what Grandma Happy Pants looks like exactly, but Grandma Happy Pants in a Chip Kelly offense I think sounds pretty flippin' interesting. Hey, you want a shout out here on the show? I want to see some Ty Bones Davises down below. Let's show our man some love for banging here on the show. Speaking of more news around Jags, the Jags are now releasing wide receiver Josh Reynolds. In the course of 2 hours, they traded Christian Kirk, released Evan Ingram. Also, actually, even earlier today, Mitch Morse ended up retiring.
Yeah.
Who else did they move on from?
All
right, so here, they moved on from Evan Ingram, Josh Reynolds, Ronald Darby, Devin Duvernay, and they traded Christian Kirk, all while we've been live right now. I think we missed our chance to start a Jags channel. That would have been it. What up, TJ? If we could throw downfield, put up points, no reason we aren't in the AFC Championship, knowing how to shut down FKC. I think what you're saying is a lot easier said than done. To say that we're going to be able to win the AFC Championship, let's go to the playoffs first, where got to be able to throw down the field, got to be able to put up points. I hear you. I am excited about this regime, but AFC Championship. Let's get to the playoffs first. I see Hellcat Q. What up, Hellcat? JR, Adam Sweeney, Familia, Noah Sabo, Mente. I got you. What a guy. That guy's on. Shout out to the GOAT. The GOAT, David Zahn. Raider Pace. Shador has made it clear he wants to be a Raider for like 2 years. The media is trying to tank his draft stock, attacking his character, and make it very easy to draft him if we want him. You know, I don't really think that anything that is happening to Shador isn't unwarranted. And I'm not saying it's even a bad thing, right? Like, Shador Sanders is going to be Shador, and he's not going to change. He's not hiding who he is. He is extremely confident. And sometimes confidence can come off as arrogance, right? Where if I sat up here on this show and I said, there's not a person on the planet that can talk about the Raiders better than I can. Some people will look at that and say, that's an arrogant statement by Mitch. You might not be wrong, but I'm also confident in my ability because nobody does what I do at the consistency that does what I do, where, you know, like, this is my job. I don't think anybody talks about the Raiders as often as that I do. So I think, like, that type of mentality for Shador is what he does. Because, I mean, we also had a lot of people from the Combine tell us Shador rubs some people the wrong way. But that's life. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people probably hear Shador Sanders talk that way, and they're like, I love that type of communication. But then think about the type of way Shador was raised. I mean, that's Deion, right? Like, when your dad is Deion Sanders, if you don't grow up with a little bit of swagger and confidence, people might say, we got to check to see if Deion's your daddy.
I see some OGs in the chat, and I know me and Mitch said we're not going crazy tonight.
Yep.
But I actually see our guy Marshall Green out there in the bullpen. He just got into work.
Oh, that's true.
He's going live tonight on our Knicks channel. It's going to be Knicks Lakers.
Yep.
$100 boots on Knicks now tonight. That's what Marshall Green just told me.
I mean, he said it yesterday. One of the other new guys is going to be working with him, and they said they're going to go back and forth boots.
Like Ray Allen style.
Ray Allen style. So since Alex is out of town and I'm free, I'm telling you right now, there's not a 0 chance. If you guys make them do enough boots, there's a chance I could come in tonight and do a boot.
Tighten me if you want to get Marsh hammered tonight. Tighten me if you're trying to get Marsh hammered tonight.
Is anybody going to watch the Knicks and Lakers game tonight?
It's going to be a good one.
I mean, I'm telling you this right now. How about this? If y'all make Marsh and Alper do... What's the number? How about this? I got boot number 7.
Lucky number 7.
I got boot number 7.
Is Marsh sitting
if
right
it happens. I got boot 7.
Marshy!
If it happens, I got boot 7, and you know what? I might even bring Chuck.
They get the dog on the other side.
Well, I went down and I talked to Kevin. I had a meeting with the building and I said, are dogs allowed? They said, yes, dogs are allowed in the building. So I said, okay. And
he shits, Kevin, you pick it up.
well, I mean, obviously, I talked to Brett the other day and he was not thrilled at all about Chuck coming into the office. But I was like, if I would just bring him in on his leash and then as soon as we hit Chat Sports carpet, I'll pick him right up. He'll be fine. Walk him in, and then as soon as we leave, I'll put him back down. We're good to go.
How much for a Chuck boot?
I'll tell you what, dude. I've seen Chuck take down some water. Bro's got a tongue. Bro's got a tongue. Chance. Trey Hendrickson, 31 years old. I just don't think it's the Raiders. There will be a team that'll pay for him that's in a Super Bowl win now, and as much as I would love to be able to look at all y'all and say, the Raiders are a win now, Super Bowl caliber team, I can't look at you dead in the eyes and say that.
I will say this, and I told, y'all know Trizzy Trace, our Saints host. The one thing that's really weird, and it was in a podcast, so obviously, every player has a podcast or whatever. Cam Jordan, the Saints defensive end, was talking shit about Trey Hendrickson, saying he's one of those players like Jadeveon Clowney that only cares about himself and getting sacks.
Interesting.
He doesn't care about the run game. He said he doesn't care about making sure that, his gaps are taken care of. All his mind is getting sacks and rushing the quarterback, which obviously there's a place in this league for. You need a guy who can get after the quarterback and sack him. But I think that might be why the Bengals are willing to trade him, is because if you look at defensive linemen, there's kind of been this lost, everybody looks at the sack numbers.
It's why anybody that says Max Crosby isn't worth his deal is a freaking moron.
Yeah, because
he does everything.
Maybe he hasn't led the league in sacks or, hasn't had that, 17, 18 sack season, but he brings it every play. He's able to get the running back down in the backfield for tackles for loss on a consistent basis. Trey Hendrickson, I don't believe, does that.
I forget what the number is exactly, but Max Crosby is in a list of defenders that, and it's like in his first, and I don't know what the amount of games is. I got to find the stat. I saw it earlier this week, but it was the amount of tackles for losses that a defensive lineman player had in his first blank amount of games. It's Max Crosby, it's J.J. Watt, it's Aaron Donald, and I think it's Chris Jones. So we're like, people always talk about the importance of defensive tackles. Crosby's doing shit. Oh, man. Bobby Wagner going back to the Commanders.
Resign?
I was thinking that.
Spaley!
Spaley!
Oh, no. He's not happy.
Oh! Cast! Oh, Joey! Bang! On the flight back watching this live, and it's Lakers all day, my dude. I didn't see what you said in my last super. Your Radio Shack internet was acting up. Holy shit, dude. That's hilarious.
It was actually all Sam's fault.
Is there any way you could go back to Cass's last super?
Yeah.
I'm trying to see where it was. I want to say it was a 10. It said Godwin is legit.
Yeah, Godwin is legit, but Metcalf seems better with who we have.
I think so. I actually answered this now, and I totally remember how I said this. Where I actually don't think that you would like how I would answer that question. I think that if you get Sam Darnold, if you get Aaron Rodgers, Chris Godwin's the better option. If you got Justin Fields, I think DK Metcalf is the perfect wide receiver to get if you get Fields. I'll admit, DK is going to fit with any quarterback you bring in. But I know you're not a big fan of Fields, but the reason why I like DK with Fields is because you need a field stretcher. And I know Fields isn't the greatest deep ball thrower, but you need somebody that can win some of those one-on-one matchups, but you also need somebody that can take the top off of a defense. The Raiders don't really have that. I know Trey Tucker's fast, but he has not earned the teams don't respect Trey Tucker enough right now. But I think Chris Godwin, I think DK Metcalf are both very, very interesting options. It would just totally depend who your quarterback is.
And Cass,
totally.
Cast, we were just talking about, I don't know if you were listening to us talk about it, Lakers, Knicks, tonight. Marshall Green will be live on our Knicks channel, and he said, Cast, $100 boots on Knicks tonight. $100 boots for my man Marshall Green. He said he's ready to get insane in the membrane for Knicks Lakers tonight.
I mean, I'll tell you this right now, man. I said I got boot 7. If you guys make those two do 6 boots in total, it's going to destroy them. And then I think the Lakers are, man, I'll tell you what, Marsh sometimes goes off rails, dude. He's a spark plug, no doubt about it. Cass, again, dude, I'm not kidding you when I say this. I love the interaction we had last night. One of the coolest dudes that we were able to sit down, have some food with. I'm glad, you were patient. Sorry, Standard Pour was kind of lame. That second spot, though, Katie Icehouse is a really good Dallas staple. And again, if anybody's ever in Dallas, Katie Icehouse is a really, really good outdoor bar, laid back.
Sponsor.
Bobby Wagner, 1 year, 9.5. That's a good value, man. That is a damn good value for somebody who's still playing at an extremely, extremely high level.
Speak of the devil.
The devil's speaking.
Mashi.
Masha
We have some
Green.
people who are saying that they're ready to get you effed up tonight.
I don't believe them.
Patrick B said he's going to get you effed up. Zahn said he's
I
going to
said I got boot 7. If you guys get to 7 boots, you give me a call. I'll be here.
I'll do them all in the Raiders booth. Only Raiders
Ooh.
support viewers get the Raiders booth.
Ooh. Rebel said he's going to get you effed up and the Lakers and LeBron are feasting, is what he wanted me.
Rebel get me to Rebel.
Rebel get you to You
Do you not get it?
He said say Marsh's name 3 times and he'll appear. Marsh.
I don't think you got it. I mean, there's going to be some spew. I'll tell you this. If you got to do 3 boots, you're a spew. I mean, it's...
If you're going to spew into this.
Yeah.
What movie is that from? Wow.
I'll be real. I didn't know either at the beginning. Who?
Slot. Really good slot.
Good slot. He
Play,
can play on the outside.
has the size, but he's better on the slot.
Y'all bring Merrick back?
Maybe. I don't know. I think Merrick could get probably 15. I think he could get maybe 15.
Hey, maybe, I don't know, maybe you can get, he has an Xavier McKinney type of deal.
Too soon. Too soon.
From Oregon to Philly to Ohio, I believe in Chip Kelly.
Are we doing anything on Bobby Wagner signing with the Commanders?
Yeah.
I just saw Sperry leave.
I think Joey's doing it.
Oh, all right. I was like, what the? Mitch to Chip Kelly equals Belichick to his 24 girlfriend love.
You missed the clap. From
I
Oregon to Philly
I
to
think somebody else also got the
Ohio,
clap, maybe.
I believe in Chip Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, dude. If Bill Belichick is in love, and I almost said something that I'm happy I didn't say.
Yeah.
God forbid if anything ever happens to Alex, and I'm 72 years old, and I have the ability to date a 24-year-old. Good for Bill.
I mean,
Good for Bill, man.
if I was in his position, I would do the same. So you're telling me if you were 74 years old and a 24-year-old wanted to sleep with you, you'd say no? No way.
You hate to break it to you. I don't believe you. Anthony G. Send Mayer and James both to Jacksonville for a 3rd and a 7th. Send 2/3 to Seattle for DK. We'd still have 10 total picks if we wanted to move around. The problem is that's not the value you're getting. I would say if you send Michael Mayer and Andre James to Jacksonville, you're probably going to get a 5th and maybe a 6th. Again, I don't know what type of draft picks Jacksonville has, but that's just to me like what you would probably get. That's not nearly enough. I like the thought process. I understand the thought process because a lot of people want to keep our picks here, but I mean, there's a part of me that almost wonders if the Raiders were to offer both of their 3rd-round picks, and they throw in a Trey Tucker. Might not be a popular opinion for some people, But that's a deal that I would also consider getting if it meant I could get DK Metcalf.
Would you have signed Bobby Wagner 1 year, $9 million?
Would I have signed Bobby Wagner 1 year, 9? The only reason why I am hesitant on that is because I do think that Robert Spillane is going to be around that $10 million mark. And I can make an argument that Bobby Wagner is probably better than Spillane in a 1 year prove it window. But I'm not trying to do a 1 year prove it window. I want a 29-year-old. I want a linebacker that Max Crosby loves. I want a linebacker that this entire fan base team loves. Spillane is one of those players, again, people who aren't Raiders fans don't understand the importance of Spillane. Green dot, captain on your defense. Spillane is more important to me than Bobby Wagner. I would want Spillane. If you told me Bobby Wagner meant no Spillane or Spillane means no Bobby, I'll take Spillane. Spillane, which can't even believe I'm saying it, man. I love the move that we did with Spillane. Spillane! Draymond owns you. I want to build the best O-line and D-line, to be honest. That's what I want to build. I mean, sometimes, we sit up here and talk so much about wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks. It doesn't matter if your offensive line stinks. It doesn't matter if you can't win in the trenches. That's how you win in the NFL, by winning in the trenches. Now, man, GMA Happy Pants looks like Noah Suavemente. Grandma Happy Pants looks like Noah. There's probably an inside joke in there somewhere, and I'm a little bit worried to find out what that is. Let's go to another one here. We got to still keep it rocking. We got a few more super chats to get through, and then the final segment here on today's show, which I kind of forgot we still have a whole segment to get to. What about a Denzel Ward trade? I would say the more likely candidate also on the Cleveland Browns would be...
I don't think they want to give up Denzel Ward.
Yeah, I don't think they want to give up Denzel Ward. I'm trying to think of his name. Because what? We talked about Greg Newsome. Mm-hmm. Who's the other... I can't think of his name. I literally did an entire show. Not entire show.
Emerson?
Yes, Martin Emerson. Martin Emerson is also another corner that you could keep an eye on that if they didn't want to give up Greg Newsome, I think Martin Emerson you could get for a really, really cheap pick overall. Let's go to the Royal Raider. The Royal Raider. Mitch, let's say the DK trade goes through. Would you see Sanders falling to pick 18? I doubt it. But I'd like to hear what's your thought. Hello from North Dakota? ND?
Northern Denmark?
Northern Denmark. Bonjour. I'll tell you this right now.
So he's referencing the video we just made in this trade.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about this trade? I do think that there's a chance Shador falls to 18.
Yeah, he's saying if we did this trade, could the Raiders still draft Shador Sanders at 18?
Yes. I mean, there are people that are reporting things from the Combine that Shador might not get taken in round 1.
I don't think that's...
I agree. I think... But the fact that it's even being talked about, I think people got to realize, I think what could happen to Shador, and I don't think it's going to happen, it could be very similar to what happened to Will Levis, where everybody's like, oh, Will Levis is going to be a first-round pick, going to be a top-5 pick, and then after the Combine, you get some notes, some people take people off the board. Some people don't have Shador some people don't have Shador as a round 1 grade. That is the truth.
It's also a smokescreen, I feel like. I think the truth is always somewhere in the middle, right? With all the rumors, with everything going around, the truth is always somewhere in that gray area. I think it's two things can be true. Do teams think that he's not a top 5 player in this draft? Of course. I would say most teams, if not all teams, would not have him as a top 5, top 10 prospect in this year's draft. At the same time, quarterback needy teams, do they not want to tell teams that if you're the New Orleans Saints at pick, what are they at pick 9?
Yep.
If you're the Dallas Cowboys at pick 12 and you want a quarterback, you're not telling teams that. You're going like, oh yeah, of course, Shador, we don't want him. If your team's in the teens that need a quarterback, the Steelers, you're probably saying, oh yeah, we don't really want Shador. Shador's not a round 1 guy. Hoping that he falls to you in round 1. If he's there for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they might take him. They need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Other teams in that teen area could definitely take him. The Seattle Seahawks, who we just talked about with the trade.
Yeah.
They could possibly want Shador at pick 18 with the whole Geno, and that might be a good.
This
scenario.
could be another reason why they would trade up if there's a quarterback that they really like that they don't think that there's any way they could get.
I was gonna say if Shador does make it to pick 18 and the Seahawks are on the board, that'll be a very interesting thing because I think they're ready to move on from Geno next season. I think they're going to give Geno 1 year.
Yeah.
And if they could get a guy in this year's draft to sit one season behind Geno, I think that would be not best case scenario, but what the Seahawks want to do.
Also, Soldier Man, I just sent you back $20. We're not doing a duck race today. The only thing that I'm accepting Venmos for is if you want to get in our March Madness bracket, which is a $50 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. Raider Ron, you in? Misty Williamson, you in? Let's go to Suave. Hard for me to pay $100 to buy the Knicks, much less for someone else to drink because of their suck. Tell Marshall that. I mean, Nav, I know this. You're down to have a good time. I'm telling y'all right now, and I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. When you get people that just, there's some streams, like if the Knicks are losing in this game and you guys start hitting Marshall with that stuff, mentally, it's a hurdle. Like, especially a boot. Like, a boot is not, we do them now so often that it looks easy, and I hate saying that. Like, one boot for me now, honestly, it's not that much of a challenge. You tell me to do 2 boots in an hour, that's tough. 3 boots in an hour? It destroys you. It is a destroyer. And I'm telling you, you guys could really F up Marsh because I don't think he realizes the deal that he made.
Jersey boy.
I don't think he thinks that you guys are going to show up. And I'm not saying you have to, believe me. But if you want to ruin them, you can. Spillane and Schlesinger.
I think it's
Schlesinger. It struggles. I struggle with that. But in all honesty, this is a great combo at linebacker. I think also somebody like a Chris Paul Jr., a little bit undersized, can move really well sideline to sideline.
He plays great for the Rockets, too, whenever he played with them.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of Rockets basketball. I like this duo a lot, though. I really do.
If he didn't get hurt, the Rockets would have made the finals. Chris Paul.
Yeah?
Just make 1 out of 27 threes in a row.
Oh, yeah. I remember that game. I watched that game.
David Zahn, the second.
What would we trade for both of these? I would say you got, for both of these,
1 shirt cock.
1 shirt cock, a 6th-round pick, and a 9th-round pick. Shane, what about signing Darius Slay Jr.? I don't know what Darius Slay Jr. has been doing. He's been on one. Good corner, obviously, from Philadelphia. Getting up there in age again, though. I mean, for me, if I'm the Raiders, if I'm going to make a move, I'm going to look to get younger. Like, you gotta look to get younger.
And please don't go after me. Don't take it the wrong way, Raider fans. Darius Slay said he wanted to play for a title contender. As of right now,
that's not the Raiders.
That's not the Raiders. I'm sorry.
Yep, I agree.
And for somebody who this might be his very last year, he might sign a 2-year deal, but I think he's got 1 year, maybe 2 left in him. I don't think he's ready for maybe not even a rebuild, but a retool like the Raiders are.
Do you see this next one? Raiders!
Watching a dookie.
I'll tell you this right now. No problem with that. The fact that you think of me when you're taking a shit, I appreciate it.
I hope he doesn't get mad at me, and I don't know if he's even still watching. Yesterday, Cash Joey told us 80% of the time he's commenting on Raiders videos, he's taking a crap.
I mean, there's not a 0% chance that he's not a mile in the air right now taking a shit, sending in that bang. I just hope he doesn't yell bang on the flight because he's going to get put on a list.
Bang.
Sent. Nah, Mitch, your acronym sucks is masterclass.
Suck?
Suck? Mitch, your acronym suck.
Did you say like sufficient, like acronym is like sufficient understanding of something, like did you say something like that? Like
I don't remember. Sometimes I feel like Navman's just in his own little world, his own little bubble, doing his own thing.
Your acronym suck. So you think you can cut.
I don't know. I have no idea. No idea. One more, and this is from Raider Wolf Espada Jr.
Also,
Thank you.
first time
Super Chat.
Chatter.
All right, y'all, let's get into the final segment coming up here on today's show. And again, if you want to participate in our March Madness bracket, Duck Race 1v1, $50 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365 in order to get in and make a little bit of money. When I say a little bit of money, $1,600 is pretty freaking cool to me. $1,600 is pretty flippin' cool to me. Basketball.
Dunk it.
Basketball. All right, y'all, final segment here on today's show. We're going to talk about Russell Wilson. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, and then we were going to get into the latest rumors, trade news around DK Metcalf. We've been seeing a lot of reports that the current price tag, the trade for Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf could be a first or a third-round pick, but I also didn't want to show.
I looked down and I looked up and I was like, where did you go?
I tied my shoe. I kept tripping over myself. We're going to go through, though. We're going to look at a lot of different reports of what it could cost to go get him because there's a lot of rumors around it right now. Coming up here, the latest around
Also,
free agency. What?
little cold Opie.
Oh, yeah? I didn't realize. Let me scroll up here a little bit.
You
We'll
got
probably be live for another 15 to 20 minutes. We are all caught up on all the super chats, just so all y'all know. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in, battling through some of the technical difficulties we had a little bit early on. But really, from the bottom of my heart, I love the fact that people continue to tune into the Raiders Report all off season long. I would say the plan when the draft is over, May, June, and July, I would say the plan for us is probably going to be we're going to go live every Tuesday and every Friday. And every Friday is going to be Friday shit show type of thing. So be ready for it. Or, I mean, we could also just do Thursday. You guys like Tuesday, Thursday better? Or would you like Tuesday, Friday better? I don't know. But I do know basketball. All right, you ready? This one is Panda Sups.
Sup?
Yeah, also, I'll just say it at the top, presented by. We'll be good.
I'll just have it in the cold open.
Okay, cool. Cool.
All right.
Cool.
And
We're going to do it reveal style?
I'll tell you, you had it.
Okay. I don't even remember how I did it.
I mean,
No, that's what I want. It's so long ago that I scripted it, I don't even remember.
You're asking me. I was like, that's what you put.
All right, I believe you. All right, y'all. Coming up here, we're going to talk about Rodgers, Russell Wilson. I think it was 8 hours ago. I don't remember. All right, y'all. You ready? All right, here we go. Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, I got some must-see Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson rumors ahead of free agency. Then we're going to talk about some DK Metcalf trade news and what exactly it could potentially cost the Raiders if they wanted to trade for the Seahawks wide receiver. And these are going to be reports from multiple different NFL insiders out there of what they have heard it could potentially cost to go get DK Metcalf, somebody that's been linked to Pete Carroll and somebody that's been linked to the Las Vegas Raiders. Today's Raiders rumors are presented by Panda Sups. Use code DRAFT for 25% off at pandasups.com to get your hands on some of the best workout supplements on the market. My name is Mitchell Renz. I'm the host of the Raiders Report, and I'm going to walk you guys through some of the reports that have happened here around the Raiders. For those that do not know, we're going to be live every single day next week for NFL free agency. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure your notifications are turned on. If the Raiders go out and they sign Russell Wilson, they sign Aaron Rodgers, I want you to be able to interact with us live while it happens. So the first story that I want to talk about today is around Russell Wilson potentially coming to Las Vegas. Right now, I'm going to give this one just win, baby, and say that there is a small chance that Russ ends up coming to Las Vegas. The reason why that I say that is there's a report out right now from somebody who's very well connected in Tampa Bay. And his name is Rob Motti, and hopefully I pronounced that right. But I know Motti is really, really well connected down in Tampa Bay, and I don't think a lot of Raiders fans know about him because this is Las Vegas, and he's got connections, obviously, to, I believe, somebody like John Spytek. The report was, though, that Russell Wilson is unlikely to go to the Raiders. Also, if you guys remember, we talked about it, probably a month ago at this point, Jay Glazer's report of that Russell Wilson was not going to go to the Raiders. And I thought that was interesting because Glazer is really, really close with Mike Tomlin. There's still a lot of speculation out there that the Steelers could try to bring back Russ, which I do find pretty interesting. But the quarterbacks that have been connected to the Silver and Black this offseason by Adam Schefter, Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, and Russell Wilson. Those are the only three quarterbacks that have been legitimately linked to the Raiders by a credible source. However, though, I do think that Schefter is missing a name, and the name that I believe that Schefter is missing is Aaron Rodgers. Quite frankly, based on everything that has happened this week, I am a believer that the Raiders adding Aaron Rodgers is more likely than the Raiders adding Russell Wilson when you really look at the reports from people that are close to the Steelers, that are close to Russell Wilson. It doesn't sound like he's coming to Las Vegas, and I do. I think Aaron Rodgers is more likely. So you know what? I want to play a game here, and this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. You got to pick one. You either got to go with Aaron Rodgers or you got to go with Russell Wilson. Type AR for Rodgers, RW for Russell Wilson. My answer is coming up here after this YouTube ad break. I'll admit, neither of those quarterbacks is in my top three. There are three other quarterbacks that I would rather the Raiders start this season than Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. But if you're telling me I got to pick between those two options, I am going to go with Aaron Rodgers. Now, if you haven't seen the report from Rob Mattey, this is what he had to say. Raiders would be an option for Aaron Rodgers if he could fit into offensive coordinator Chip Kelly's system. A team official told me last week the staff hasn't made that determination yet. It's been the exact same thought process that I have had. I know that Rodgers is a good quarterback, but I actually don't know if he's as good of a fit in Chip Kelly's offense as what a lot of people think. So are the Raiders interested in adding the 41-year-old Rodgers? I am going to give this one 2 just win babies, and people are talking. And the fact that people are talking about him, like a guy named Max Crosby, says to me that there is a possibility. So the Raiders don't know if they are interested in Rodgers. That is the report right now. The Raiders are still unsure if Rodgers fits what Chip Kelly's offensive scheme is, which I simply just think is Chip Kelly's offense is predicated on you at least got to have a quarterback that is a threat to run. You don't need a running quarterback, but you at least just got to be a threat to pick up a first down. There's a lot of run zone options. You need a mobile quarterback. It's when the offense, I would say, is at its peak. Aaron Rodgers on the Raiders offense means that you're trying to hit a single or a double. There's a part of me that wants to go for a home run. But Max did say that he would want Aaron Rodgers. And I think that when you look at the timeline of things that have happened here, it's very important to look at that timeline. So the initial report from Adam Schefter on Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, that one happened on February 28th. Then on March 4th, Crosby comes out and says that he wants Aaron Rodgers. Then on March 5th, you see the Rob Mattey report. Then a few hours later, Max Crosby signs an extension. My point is more of this. If the Raiders were super against what Max said, I don't know if they would have just gone out right away and given him the deal that they did, but the fact that the Raiders made Max Crosby the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history and front-loaded Max's contract the way that they did, that tells me that this team is trying to win right now, and they are giving themselves a 2-year window in order to do it. But the Raiders, they value what Crosby says. And if Rodgers was a 0% chance of happening, I actually don't think Crosby would have even uttered the words because of how close of a relationship he has with Mark Davis. If you didn't see the comments that 98 made on A-Rod, here's what he had to say. First year after an Achilles is one of the hardest things to do. I think with all the doubt, all the negativity around Aaron Rodgers, he needs to retire, things like that. He's getting cut by the Jets. I think he's going to come back, and I have a feeling that I know he's 42 or 41, but I think he's going to have a big year this year, and I hope it's in our town. That would be legendary. When Max Crosby said that on his podcast, I actually stood up here on this live show and I go, when I hear that, that just tells me and screams that Max wants to be a Raider, and Max obviously is a Raider now for the long haul after signing a massive 3-year, $106 million with $91 million guaranteed. That's 5 years, $149 million. But the way that the Raiders front-loaded that contract, it tells me that they want to win, and they want to win right now. And if they feel like Aaron Rodgers helps them do that, that's one of those situations where everybody thought Tom Brady was washed. Tom Brady ended up winning the Super Bowl with John Spytek. Even though I think Aaron Rodgers is a diva in his own right and was a cancer in New York, if you told me I can win a Super Bowl, that's the only way that I'm on board with it. Coming up next here, though, on the show, the DK Metcalf trade news. I'll also say this. I'll put a video down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. If you want to see me break down why I would and why I wouldn't want the Raiders to go sign Rodgers, you can find that video down below. I already broke it down earlier in the week. We will get into the DK Metcalf trade news here in just a moment, but today's show is sponsored by Panda Subs, owned and operated by a diehard Raiders fan. And if you want to take advantage of his deal that he's got right now, he's got some super nootropics that come in flavors like pink lemonade, peach mango, strawberry watermelon. If you need some help to get better mental clarity, a little bit more energy to boost your mood, help. Sometimes, like when I do this show, I need like a creative boost, I guess, if you will. And just because you guys literally were hearing me talking about it when the show started, I didn't even remember how I even scripted the show to start. And I got a lot of stuff going on. But you know what? Because I got my super nootropics, which I absolutely love, when you are feeling like you're going to crash a little bit, and maybe you're a student, maybe you're working. Like, I can remember the first job that I had right out of college. I worked for this company, and dude, at 3 o'clock, I was ready for a nap. Like, every single time it happened. I also love caffeine. I'm trying to get away from, a lot of coffee. I love coffee in the morning, but, you get to like 4 or 5 cups in a day, and you're like, all right, bro, like, that's enough caffeine. A lot of energy drinks out there. I'm somebody that needs to be alert all the time. I'm always on call, especially in free agency. Super Nootropic is going to help me be my best version next week. People are going to go, Mitch, I can't believe you're bouncing back each and every day. Why? I got my Panda Sups routine. I got it down. Use code DRAFT for 25% off at pandasups.com. Let's go to the final story here. Are the Raiders interested in trading for DK Metcalf? This one is for just win, babies. Believe it, baby. I'm telling everybody here right now, the Raiders are a team that has picked up the phone, and they have called the Seattle Seahawks about what it could potentially cost to trade for Metcalf. And he requested a trade on March 5th. Raiders are interested in multiple Seahawks wide receivers, whether it's Tyler Lockett, but I know that they're interested in Metcalf. And there's already been reports this offseason that the Raiders are looking for a wide receiver one to put with Jacoby Myers and put with Brock Bowers. Obviously, the connection to Pete Carroll, but the Raiders, knowing that they are looking for a one, knowing that they also have draft picks and the amount of money to be able to pay DK, are all reasons why I know the Raiders are interested. The problem is, though, I think everybody under the sun knows the Raiders are interested in DK Metcalf. But you can't just say, I'm interested, and you go out and get him. You got to be able to get him for the right price. And that's usually the way that these conversations go. So what I wanted to be able to do here, instead of just give you what I thought it was going to cost to go out and get DK Metcalf, I went through and I found multiple different reports from multiple different, respected NFL insiders out there about how much it could cost to get 14 in silver and black. Let's first talk about Diana Rossini and her report that came out bright and early on March 6th this morning. And it was this: the Seahawks are seeking a first and a third-round pick for DK Metcalf. That tells me that Diana Rossini talked to the Seattle Seahawks this morning, because nobody, and myself included, no way in hell am I giving up a first-round pick for DK after he told the entire world that he wants to be traded out of Seattle. Because he's going to get a deal somewhere around $30 million per year, that is going to lower his asking price. Let's also talk about Josina Anderson and her report that came out around DK Metcalf. And I'll tell you what, this makes me giggle a little bit, because she said, I am told there's a team willing to give up at least a third-round pick. It probably is why she blocked you. I mean, here's the thing. No disrespect to Josina, every other NFL team would be interested in DK Metcalf if it was only for a third-round pick. Josina also doubled down, literally probably in the last hour since I'm live, and said that she was told by a source that Seattle's asking price is too high. But this was not the asking price. I actually think that Josina forgot to put in her tweet they're looking for a first and a third, because just saying that they're only looking for a third, I don't know who told Josina that. Maybe she's only talking to the Raiders. Let's go to Bill Barnwell here. He's from ESPN. He puts out a lot of different type of content around trades, free agency, all that type of stuff. So I was interested to see what he had to say about what he thought it could cost for the Raiders if they wanted to go out and get DK Metcalf. First, he said, not as much as what Seahawks fans might hope for. So that's right off the jump saying you're not getting a first and a third round pick. Also said that it depends on the teams trading for Metcalf, which is a duh, right? Like the Raiders, they need a wide receiver. When you look at some of the teams that he linked to DK, he linked 10 teams. If you want to go check out this article, it is on ESPN, though it is an ESPN Plus article. These were the 10 teams that he said made the most sense for DK. And he goes in deep length, honestly, of why each team could end up making the deal. One of the things that you just got to consider is the asking price. And when you see a trade go down like Christian Kirk going to the Houston Texans, and for Houston to be able to get Christian Kirk, you can say what you want about Kirk, right? You can say what you want. But they just got him for a 7th-round pick in 2026. When a player asks to be dealt, or when a team says that they're going to move on from you, your asking price goes down, a.k.a. Devontae Adams, right? So then he says the best estimate that he believes the Seahawks could get is a pick in the mid-40s, which that's obviously 40 to 49. That's a 2nd-round pick. Here's what Barnwell had to say. My best estimation is the Seahawks would be able to land something close to the draft capital of a pick in the 40s as part of a trade. That might mean getting a 1st-round pick and sending something back alongside him in return, or landing a selection toward the top of the 2nd round. The Raiders don't have a pick in the 40s, but they do have a pick at number 37. Well, there's a lot of DK Metcalf trade rumors, and there's a lot of teams out there that are going to show interest. But you got to be able to pay for them, and you got to have the draft capital that Seattle wants. So my question out there to you is, where will DK Metcalf play this upcoming season? My answers of the top 5 teams most likely to get him coming up after this YouTube ad break. Yes, the Raiders are on this list, but no, I do not think the Raiders are the number 1 team. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been looking for a wide receiver 1 for almost like 2 years now, and they have been connected to every single receiver. Believe me, I hear it all the time at Chat Sports. New England has the most money, where I think if, the Seattle Seahawks don't get the draft compensation they get, but they're still like saying, hey, we want DK and we're going to go pay him. DK might even be able to force his way out. I have the Raiders at number 3, and then I can see the Bills and I can see the Chiefs for obvious reasons being interested in Mr. Metcalf. Let's go to the final team here, final thing. This one's from The Athletic. This is an article written by Tashawn Reed and The Athletic where they kind of go through and they illustrate what it could potentially cost to bring in Metcalf. And again, very, very different sources, very different things that they are hearing. According to Tashawn, this was the trade that he would do for Metcalf. I'll be honest with you. I always say, I know our Raiders beat writers is what it is, but you also can't really take Tashawn, Vic, Vinny, Hondo's, I would say football IQ serious, because if you're the Raiders, this isn't a deal that I would want to do. Like, I don't want to give up a 2nd and a 3rd, and I know it's a 3rd-round pick in next year's draft, but that's not what I would want to give up for Metcalf. That's a little bit too rich for my blood. Really, a 2nd-round pick I think is going to be enough for him. Now, maybe Tashawn's here and a few other things, but if this is what Tashawn would do, it's just not what I would want to do for Mr. Metcalf. Here's what he had to say, though, on the Raiders making that deal. Obviously, the Raiders' 1st-round pick, number 6, is off limits, though a 2nd and a 3rd is still a hefty price to pay. It could be worth it to acquire a legitimate number 1 receiver. From a contract perspective, the Raiders would be offering Metcalf an average annual salary of $31.25 million, exceeding the mark the 49ers just gave Brandon Ayuk last year, but with less guaranteed money. If Metcalf's representatives play hardball, the team would be willing to guarantee some of that wideout 2025 base salary. Metcalf would be reunited with former Seahawks coach Pete Carroll, and he'd be Team Jacoby, tight end Brock Bowers to give the Raiders a scary pass-catching trio. Las Vegas would just need to find a quarterback who could get them the ball. Everything that he is saying in there, I agree with a lot of the things that The Athletic put, but the reason why you're not going to have to give up a 2nd and you're not going to have to give up a 3rd-round pick, even if it's in next year's draft, is because of the price tag. Knowing that a team has to pay DK Metcalf $30 million, there's not a lot of teams that have that flexibility, which then hurts the overall ability to go out and get him. So because of that, you're not going to have to give up nearly the amount. So in conclusion on today's show, Aaron Rodgers joining the Las Vegas Raiders is more likely than Russell Wilson. The Raiders are interested in DK Metcalf. However, Anybody that says that they know how much it's going to cost or they know what the trade's going to look like is lying, because I just showed you 4 people that are all respected in their own regard, and it is all super, super different. What it's going to come down to is who meets the Seahawks' demands and who can pay DK Metcalf. My hope is it's the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, y'all, what teams could you see going last to first this season? So basically what the Commanders did. They were the worst team in their division first. I mean, the answer I want to give is Raiders. That's the answer I would love to be able to give. I would say this. The Chicago Bears could be sneaky. They were last in their division. I could see them being sneaky.
Close your ears. The 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. That's definitely a good one. Nobody in the AFC East. What about the AFC North? Who was last in that? The Bengals.
Yeah.
Though I don't know if I could see them.
Were the Bengals last? No, it was the Browns.
Oh, duh, Mitch. Yeah, Christ. I honestly forgot Cleveland even existed.
The Panthers, NFC South. It's wide open, I think.
I mean, I would be shocked about that one.
Just like, who's the front? I mean, Tampa Bay, but
Tampa Bay's probably the front runner, but they lost a lot of pieces. The Saints have Derek Carr, so.
I don't think it'll be the Titans.
Atlanta.
I don't think it'll be the Titans.
No, Titans, I don't see them surpassing. I don't see the Titans being good, to be real. That's a good question. What do you guys got? Panthers? A lot of Raiders, and Raiders is the answer I want. Raiders is the answer that I want. Okay. I just saw Alex Venmo'd me. I thought she was trying to get in, but apparently I paid for lunch today. So,
Draymond says, could have beat you game 7 in 18 just like in 6 in 19.
All right. I'm not a basketball guy, so I have no idea what that means. No idea.
About the Rockets.
Oh, Rockets. Anthony G, and this is the last one.
McAfee said Giants are nearing a Rodgers deal. I don't think that's true. I think you misheard him, and he probably said the Giants are a team that's interested in Rodgers.
Because I don't think McAfee's live right now, and if that would have been said, a lot more people would be talking about it.
Yeah. You probably just misheard him.
Yep.
Or Marsh is just bad at his job. Because if that was the case, and he's...
Both are a possibility.
If they were nearing a deal with Rodgers and Marsh was standing here with an empty plate in his hand, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing?
How can they be nearing a deal if he's still on the Jets?
Exactly.
Or Marshall's just bad.
Exactly.
Oh,
all right, y'all.
Speaking of Marshall, before we get out, type me if you're going to get Marshall effed up tonight. Type me if you're going to get Marshall effed up tonight. He said $100 boots on Knicks now. It's going to be Knicks up against the Lakers.
I'm telling you this right now.
Luka Doncic.
I think I might send in 100. Alex just sent me $102 on Venmo. That sounds like a good amount of money to send.
Rustin
to
says
see
mess him
that
up.
boot go down.
King says me. Rebel says Marsh is excited for it.
Oh, dude, it's going to be a bloodbath. I can't wait. I
can't
can't wait.
And if you're like, hey, how will I know? Like what? Make sure you are following Mitch on IG and on Twitter. He'll put out the links to those videos on his socials later.
Yep.
And that's how you'll find it.
Once Marsh puts out like where he's going live, I'll retweet it. But next week, big week. Obviously, the Raiders are going to be aggressive. If they do anything tonight, if they do anything tomorrow, I will do my best to go live. Again, my fiance, Alex, she is out of town on her bachelorette party. If anybody sees her in L.A., say what's up. Make sure you take care of her, though. Be nice. At the same time, I'm on dog dad duty, obviously, all week, so my schedule is going to be a little bit weird with Chuck, but if I have an opportunity when Raiders news happens, I promise you, you will hear from me. We will talk about it. If I got done doing this show and Tyler Lockett in an hour from now ended up going to the Raiders, you could find me live. I don't know if I'll be here. I would definitely, though, be live on the Raiders Report. So from me, from Jeremy Chuggs, appreciate everyone tuning in today, battling through some of the connection issues that we had. Much, much love to all y'all, and I hope that I see you later on Knicks Lakers Live. I got the 7th boot. And if you bring me to the show, I'm a party. That's all I'm going to say. Have a good night.